Hey, it's MsChronicChronicles.
Hey, it's Sonny. You're listening to The Mary and Joe Show.
So, Mary,
Can it be blunt?
Yes, you can. Sonny, welcome to my podcast. This is The Mary and Joe Show. This episode is focused on Missouri to Colorado, a little bit of a story of strange encounters, I would say, wouldn't you?
Oh, I can agree with that statement.
Check your website pages and click out of them because I hear an echo. So It might be trying to connect, but we're here, everybody. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this lovely friend to be. We're getting to know each other live here on air. I only know a little bit of his story, but I met him through a familiar guest to the podcast, our mac and cheese favorite. Shout outs to Mac. If you could only be here, girl. Part 2. We want you here. We want you here.
That would be so dope. Part 2, gotta make that happen.
Come on, Mac. We got to get you with the cheese again. So, everybody, if you are familiar with my previous conversations about Missouri, then you probably know I have some history with Missouri, but not his part of the planet, if you'll say. But he's going to tell his own version of Missouri. You're not from Kansas City. Am I correct about that?
Correct.
And that has to be interesting because Missouri is like industrial and very trees.
Lots of farmland, and then it's one extreme to the other. There are parts of Missouri that can duplicate views of like canyons and creeks here in Colorado, just minus the mountains.
Wait a second now. Like where? Mention a city. I need to know this.
Lake of the Ozarks entire area and Mark Twain National Forest.
Okay, and so you are in the woods of the Ozarks. Am I correct about that?
Stuck in the sticks for the majority of my life.
Well, now, okay, so you live, we're going to just give it away. You live in Parachute, aka a safe place to land. Did you know it used to be named that? Parachute.
Actually, yes.
It's pretty crazy. So you found yourself all the way through this canyon. We're going to start a little bit further back, though, aren't we, sir?
Absolutely. Dig as far as you can go.
Well, would you like to start off with how old are you, sir? And I'm going to get my annoying little dog. So if you hear a noise, I'm opening the door. Hang tight, everybody. Please tell the listeners.
Alrighty. So get your annoying little dog. And I am 23 years old. I will be next month. And born and raised in Missouri for 22 years.
22 years.
It was not really in one spot. I grew up all over in every region of Missouri. You mentioned Kansas City earlier, and I did live in a little suburb outside of Kansas City for about 2 years and moved down to it was one extreme to the other. Faster paced of life, city life, all the way down to the sticks, trailer park, by this little boondocking lake.
And Missouri, from what I remember it being, and this is, I went a couple of years ago to Missouri City itself, like Kansas City itself. It was so industrial. I was surprised by it, but there was nothing but slums around it. So the poverty is pretty bad there. I noticed.
And Missouri is what a lot of people would call a flyover state because the two major cities that represent the MO are St. Louis and Kansas City, which are on the complete opposite sides of the state from each other. And then everything in between is all industrial or farm, agriculture.
Interesting. And so you were born January 17th, you told the listeners. I'm sorry to walk away for a second, guys. Right?
Just outside of St. Louis, yep.
Just outside. And would you say your childhood was pleasant and a perfect story, or how would you describe it in some words?
I would call my childhood a perfect Tetris game. I wasn't understanding how the pieces were falling at the time, but whenever I really zoom out and reflect as an adult, I'm thankful for both the good and the bad times, and there was a solid share of both. The stability was non-existent, so it was always up moving around. I never really stayed at the same school for any longer than 3 years. And
I can
so
relate.
it was interesting meeting all kinds of new friends, but it gets old having to keep reintroducing yourself, trying
Telling
to
the
fit
story.
in. And that's real shit. A lot of people, they don't talk about it, but it is real. Like whenever you're a kid, that's what you want. You want to find your tribe and fit in, and it's hard whenever you're not from that specific region and you're always moving.
It's a double-edged sword, wouldn't you say? Because it gives you life skills to talk to anybody, but it also is like,
absolutely,
what is
and
worth
I've
it?
actually been called as an adult a chameleon personality, so I guess it was training me for being able to vibe with just about anybody, all the way from the highest highs to the lowest lows. Out here in Colorado, I've met several amazing multimillionaires that whenever I worked at the golf club, that when you really come to realize that they may have everything together, but they're just like everybody else. And I've also made absolute best friends with some of the most poor homeless people. So it's really, it's cool having a chameleon personality because you get to just blend in and vibe with anybody.
Well, I have to correct you though, and I don't even know you that well, but it's more is that you've had some life skills and you're humbled. I have to say that. I don't even know you that well, and I can tell that. I mean, I'll just say that at 21, I was 2 years in after Hurricane Katrina, and I was living in California and still not able to text and drive. I was nervous as shit because there was 4 lanes. I was so used to like one ways in New Orleans, a very different world. So
no roundabouts.
None. No, like I didn't even know there was a law at least in California, the carpool lane. Right now, yes, I know there's signs, but like I didn't know it was such a fee, or running through lights. And I mean, every city's different, let's just say. But in general, not to get off on a tangent, but you having the life skills early, because let me ask you, do you feel comfortable sharing maybe the tangled weave that you've led in your life of even being indoctrinated with? Didn't you share with me some of the religious constructs that happen from different family members that made you more open-minded?
Absolutely. And the open-mindedness kind of formed from each family member. Let me go back.
Please.
So with hopping around, zero stability, and moving around from family member to family member, each family member has their own side of a story.
Well said.
And so I never, in my heart, wanted to pick sides. So that's where the open-mindedness came in. So where my grandparents were extremely religious, drilled, Bible Belt.
Okay.
And that it was more structured. I will give it that, but it was also more pressing and made me feel like I couldn't truly be myself. I had to go off of this book and walk a straight line or else. And
okay, so what was a typical Wednesday to Sunday for you? I'm just curious.
Wednesdays were the second day of the week for church.
Oh.
Get out of school. Grandparents dropped me off at the youth church on Wednesdays, and then
donuts and coffee and
pretty much
punch.
And Sundays it wasn't youth church. I would join my grandparents in with contemporary service, and
we're talking.
I did get some insight from the religious aspect of life, but whenever I left them, I went straight to the boys' home to state custody, and that was also very.
Let's take it one step at a time, because that is such a good point. But let me bring you back. So you said that your years of indoctrination, because that's what I call it. No offense to anybody's opinions, But
Right.
the year, because I was like almost 2 steps to the wind of the Duggars. That's how bad my Christianity was. Like real Southern bullshit. Like
Gotcha.
speaking in tongues, snake kissing, possibly. You know, real shit. So
Gotcha.
I know that I was feared a lot. And so actually drugs were around me very early because unfortunately the church and like sexuality and all that stuff was around me in the church really early. So, and you're from a different generation. I'm born in 85. You're born in what year again?
01.
01. Okay. You're like a year difference from my brother. So how old are you again? 22? There's no way.
Yes.
Maybe I'm wrong.
23 next month.
I thought he was in his 30s. Maybe I'm wrong. I might be wrong. Anyway, my brother, I thought he was already in his 30s. Anyway, yeah. No, long story short, so at that time, we're talking there's still more open-mindedness, that there was merging of things. And you said this was Baptist?
Yes.
Okay, in Southern Baptist?
General
I
Baptist.
love Baptists though, because they're so fake fun. Like they're really nice people, but they'll lie to your face. I hate to put it like that. I'm not trying to sound negative.
What? That is the best way to put it because
I love their
description.
They will love the fuck out of you if you love the fuck out of them. I'm sorry,
it's
the fuck
terrible. Out of you if you know how to put on a mask.
If you bring the best pie and if you are consistent with those donuts, I don't know, you can win someone's heart. I've just been to a lot of youth groups, even in those, like, I don't know how Missouri was, but even in Colorado as a teen, this was how it was. You'd have these mega churches that weren't really mega, but they wanted to be so bad. So then you would have the youth groups lock-ins. Did you ever go to those?
No.
You slept at the church? They lock you in. They lock you in, Sonny. Can you freaking believe it? Anyway, yeah, that's how much my indoctrination was. So yours was more the structure, right? Your grandparents wanted you guys to be at the table praying, I'm assuming, every Easter, every event.
All the way down to the way that I carried myself and spoke.
You weren't like a Jehovah's Witness being forced to go walk and knock on doors, were you? Like,
no,
come donate to the church.
On doors, I'm asking for some sugar.
Right. High five. That's a good fucking answer. Well, here in Colorado, you might get some edibles if you knock on someone's door. I'm just saying.
That would be cool. That would be
right?
Super cool.
Hey, you haven't even seen our Christmas yet. I mean, we need to green it up around here. We do. What would you, let's just like give a palate cleanser just for people at the religious anger. They're right now steaming, you feel it, I'm sure. So whoever's upset out there in the ethers when they actually hear this podcast, sorry, no offense. I support you. You can believe whatever you want, but it does affect people. And we are kind of an evidence of it, I'd say. I mean, in my own ways, I'm like, stop thinking sexuality's bad. Stop thinking that everybody is good. That's what Christianity fucks you up.
Pretty much.
Sorry, but So, what do you find in Colorado's indoctrination of thought processes versus Missouri? That's my question. Let's palate cleanse that.
What a really good question. So, it really didn't take me long to figure out that Colorado has a much faster pace of life. You have to keep up or you're going under. You better learn to swim.
Yep.
Much faster pace of life. I will say that the whole, the stereotype of Colorado being full of hippies is partly true in the aspect of, if you go from Missouri or actually anywhere from east or in the south straight to Colorado, you'll find that the majority of people out here don't care for drama or bullshit. They just want to vibe. Like, everybody tries to stay on a higher plane, and I can speak for everybody safely.
Yep.
Nobody really wants any bad vibes around. And everybody comes here The natives are pretty cocky, but everybody comes here to transform their lives, start over, find something new, etc. And I've been welcomed by Colorado with open arms. And it's safe to say that everybody that I've ran into so far is all on the same page as far as no drama, keep your bullshit out of the way, and good vibes only.
That's right. I would say it is a little strange, though, that and I don't know how you feel about this, and this may be pushing a topic you could say, pass! I'm okay with that. But there does seem to be like a very high version of cheap meth, I've heard, and I don't know because I've never bought it or interested, but I've heard that through the clouds that cannabis, if you like it, you're going to use it. But if you like meth, you're going to come here for cheap because of sponjunction, I've heard. And that fentanyl is a very big problem out here too. I mean, on the western side,
very big problem out here.
But we don't have the same homeless population. So what is going on?
I think that the natives, that's the big reason why they're so salty, because as soon as Colorado, being one of the first states to open their mind with drugs, a lot of people from outside of Colorado came in and swamped the place and got all one, the housing sucked, so people tried and they failed and they became homeless out here. And what happens to homeless people after a while? They get to hanging around the drug crowd. And I'm not sure about as far as prices or anything, but I do know Sponjunction, whatever it is that's over there, it's keeping them here. So
it's a good statement.
It must be cheap and it must be good, but good for them.
Can you vouch for me? I'm sorry, I really want to hammer this down. In Parachute, Battlement Mesa, do you see homeless people on the streets?
Absolutely not. The one person that I have seen is holding a sign. Wasn't even holding a sign for money.
Yep.
He holds a sign out there at the intersection for
kindness.
I asked him what his purpose was, and he said, "I just want to make people laugh
and smile." He literally spends his energy on others. It's real. And he has a place to live, and he's not dirty. So
exactly,
it's really sad.
That's the only sign that you'll see flying out here.
And shout out to him if he's listening, because I absolutely want to interview him. You know who we're talking about. High five.
Oh, big time.
Big time. He's a creature of interesting. But yes. Yeah, we see
the drug
creative
scene
people
as far
on
as
the
that
street.
goes.
We
like,
don't. The truck.
Missouri's pretty bad too.
Okay, do share.
So,
cocaine.
I got introduced to it at a young age by being dropped off at my father's house, and that's all that he hung out with was those kind of people. And I never knew my father at that time. So, whenever I got dropped off at his house to live with him, I got introduced to a whole new world of fucked up with the drug scene and everything else. So as I got older, I started, since that's all that I was around at that point, I started falling into the rabbit hole with him. And that's the only kind of relationship that me and my father had.
Can I ask, by like poking with a big stick?
Go for it.
Was this before or after you were in the boys' homes?
This was after.
And so how long were you in the boys' homes? Because I have a little bit of experience with my brother with that, and it was in Florida. So different environments, just as fucked up, I'm sure.
I was in the boys' home in state custody from the time that I was 14 to the time that I was 17. And I was supposed to be in there till I was 21.
Jeez.
However, I ended up going to jail at 17 and removed from the boys' home to be put in county custody. Mm-hmm. And I stayed 122 days in jail. And which was honestly, for me, better than the boys' home.
Right.
Because I wasn't being put on meds that I didn't need, being falsely diagnosed. And that's another huge topic that I think people need to talk more about, is the kids that are in the homes are not being advocated for whatsoever. They are science experiments, and it's pretty bad.
Oh my God, you are so brilliant.
It's ugly.
The words you just used, you don't know how many listeners are going to fall to their knees because we've been saying this for months. It's true. They are science experiments, and they're literally cash cows, I think.
Big time. And the craziest part is, here we go back to church, is it's the churches that are hosting most of these boys' homes organizations. Same with girls' homes.
Yep.
It's the churches, and it's a big money pit, and they are eating it all up.
Well, if it makes you feel better, when I was 13, my mother was dying of breast cancer. We were living in Parachute, and she went and put her car on the railroad tracks, wanted to kill herself, right? Sorry, I shouldn't say that on YouTube and Spotify, but here it is. And I've told this story before, but just so you get enlightened, I understand on so many levels in my own fucked up way. But my mother ended up going to St. Mary's in Grand Junction, the mental institution, for 3 months. Nobody was able to take me because, unfortunately, even in the 90s, it was like late 90s, there were a lot of people in Parachute who were on meth. So as soon as like a CPS worker got involved with a woman who tried to kill herself because she was dying of cancer, children, they were investigating these people. So I was in Rifle, which you know where that is, and I was under the guides of like 14 girls, different ages, some pregnant, some had gotten pregnant while in the foster care.
Oh yeah, that happens.
Oh, that's a whole nother podcast. Anyway, because it's crazy grooming that happens, or they come damaged, But the first day I was in not boys home, foster care, the first day, and he was a Baptist preacher in Rifle. He owned a church and a yellow Mustang and a hot tub and a lot of fucking property. It was just, I don't know if they meant it or if they were just, who knows? You know what I mean? I think there's a good side to it and then there's a corrupt side to it. When I experienced the foster care, because the first night the girls are like, "You're never leaving here." And I was like, "What?" And I actually did a couple of months later, but it was horrible.
And for some people, going to state custody could be the best thing to ever happen to them. Mm-hmm. Depending on really what their home life is, mm-hmm. and the ones that it's not really up to their will.
Yes.
And there's no questions asked to the child. They just throw them in mm-hmm. the system.
That's stealing a child.
That's the corrupt side.
Yep. Where do you feel you fell?
How do you mean?
Where do you feel that your situation, did it save you or did it create a whole new monster?
It created a whole new monster because I was really content with living with my grandparents, going to public school. I had a lot of friends that transferred after me from one school to my new one. And so I was able to keep certain friends, just live a normal, youthful life for a couple years for once. And then
was it jail that corrupted everything? What happened that made the wrench in the system for you?
Jail was my saving grace from the system. Mm-hmm. It was more, I didn't just go straight from public school to a boys' home. I went all the way down to getting put on one hallway for 6 months and having to raise my hand asked to use the bathroom.
Oh my God.
And being put on a bunch of meds that I didn't need, feeling like a prisoner, and kept asking myself, why for? Why for? What for? And
did you ever have severe depression by that point or then before? Holy shit.
I had some anger issues that was from unresolved trauma from childhood experiences, but
yes,
I never really took my anger out on anybody, but my teachers could see it, my school counselor could see it, and I was getting rebellious and was like, one of my teachers told me around that time that I had a existential crisis to where I was in class and I walked out to the hallway to talk to him, and I told him straight up, none of this really matters. Kind of like a Donnie Darko moment. None of this really matters. Why are we sitting at desks all day? I'm not learning anything. And
well, be honest. How are the schools? Because I'm from Louisiana. You could say every joke and it's probably true. So go for it. What the school is like in Missouri? Don't say
some of
it,
them
but
are
yes.
okay, but the one that I'm talking about was pretty strict. And by strict, I mean you could get written up
For anything.
If you have been assigned an assignment and basically
They
do this or else.
Discipline.
Do this or else. Don't do this
Okay.
or else. And it was just shit hanging over your head all the time, and it was walking on eggshells.
So I have to ask, I'm going to interrupt you. So is Missouri's school system, you experienced a version of, institutionalization?
Some of them, yes.
Ew, I understand. Colorado wasn't, I'll say that, but yeah, Louisiana was disgusting. They put the answers on the freaking board and were like, you guys probably need this. And we were like, it's a setup!
Yeah.
Sad facts. Okay, so and we got to paint a picture, because people are going to have opinions. They're allowed to have them. They don't have to share them. They can keep them in their ear holes and eye holes and throat holes and stomachs. Okay, throw them where they need to be. Hold on, we got a dog. Hold on.
Got a dog. I'm going to go ahead and break out and be just like the rest of my generation, I guess. Where the fuck is my vape before I lose my shit?
Okay. Can I ask you some random silly questions about that? And I'll actually have you review a channel. And I want your opinion, because I don't want to like hurt the guy's feelings before I ever like put him out there. But somebody who's underage contacted me. And if you're listening, I'm sorry. I'm being nice about it. But somebody who's not even of age to go get a damn vape, I mean, like, really, okay, wants to be a guest on my show and tell his story, how he's been token since he was 8. So let's talk about that. Is that more common than I am understanding with my 1985-year-old ass?
Gotcha.
Is it a 9-year-old doing a vape or smoking cannabis? I was 12. I don't know about all that.
Vapes didn't really start becoming big until I was in my later teenager years. But I see the ones following up behind me, the years that are coming up behind me,
right,
make huge deals. They want that instant gratification. Oh, my friend has a vape, so I want one.
16.
Oh, my friend is smoking weed, so I want.
16 to 20.
I want.
I'm sorry, no offense. I'm not being rude to you. And I know you're not 20, but I'm just saying. 16 to 20, it's even like, okay, you know how you've done a bong hit. I'm sure you have. You're not afraid, I'm sure. Okay, right? You know how to hit it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, thank God. There are people. There are people. And it's a horrible thing when you see it happen. Like put their mouth on the outside, the whole thing. Anyway, there are people. So a lot of these people I'm seeing that are trying to like hype it out, and that's the only way to say it, is it's like they're taking dab hits or nicotine hits or just flavored shit so hard, you gotta cause some fucking problems. Like, you're never gonna get a good bowl ever in your life.
Have you ever heard the term blinker?
No. Oh my God, yes! Recently!
So that's
horrible.
Pretty much become a popularized thing.
Oh, I feel like an old bitch now.
I do too, because I didn't know what it was until just recently.
They do it together!
And I'm seeing everybody, all the teenagers, even people my age on TikTok and on
I'm gonna blow your fucking mind. Can I blow your fucking mind?
Go for it.
Holy shit. So there's a guy, I'm gonna send him to you right now, and throughout this show, we're gonna like have a moment where you're gonna just go look at it real quick. I want your opinion, because I think it'd be great, but you gotta keep the volume down. Okay. But I think
Okay.
this needs to happen because you're saying shit that's so on point to it. It's scary. Okay. What's his fucking name? Oh, I feel like an asshole. Okay, please continue your thought. But this is too funny. I'm crying over here. Holy shit. It's true. It's like, okay, I say toke and I say talk because it's like how my mom used to call it. Let's toke. Like she was a 70s chick. I don't know. I respect it. My papa called it grass or leaf or
Oh yeah.
Jesus's bad lettuce. I don't know. It's horrible, you know.
All of my friends my whole life have been way, way older than me, so I've picked up on their terminologies more than I have.
I don't like saying stoned though, because I think of the commercial with the like, this is your brain on this, and this is. I hate that.
I watched that commercial tripping.
What?
And I just died laughing at it.
Oh man, you know what you should watch? The Indian who's crying when you're tripping. That's a hardcore moment.
Okay.
By the trash on the side of the road. Come on. Come on. Oh my god. She's refusing. She refuses. My son's the only one who can get her inside. Hold on, guys. All right, we're coming back. Sorry about that, Sonny. Sorry.
Back from the commercial break.
Back from the commercial. It's a barking moment. Okay. Give me one moment. Mementos. We need 4 toes. Hold on. Let me see if I can. I can't mute it. I probably can. Hold on.
Chaos.
Okay, so you guys missed out on that brain thought, but that's okay. It's a good one. It is chaos. Okay, we were just saying that these people are hitting the dab pen so long, thinking it's a whole good moment. I don't know. This guy might have actually gotten upset that I didn't respond to him right away. Now that I'm looking at this shit, we'll find out. Maybe he's still here. But this person reached out to me, and I was shocked. I was like, "You're not even old enough to get a pen. How the fuck are you doing that?" Like, I'll have to send it to you another time. Oh, he did get all kinds of Innis feels. That's weird.
Rut-row raggy.
Oh, that's so sad. Oh, well, too bad. Yeah, but yeah, no, it's a real thing. Like, they're totally tensions.
Can I be blunt?
Yes, please. Please do.
Definitely comes into hand. So any of the listeners that are listening.
They will.
Definitely, this is an open-minded podcast for sure.
Damn straight.
So we are not here to offend anybody.
No.
But
yeah, I probably sound like a
Q&A, and it's a blunt Q&A.
That's right. I just lit it up. I hope you are too. The reality is that I don't mean any bad ill as a mother or as a cannabis user. I have scarring on my lungs from the shitty dab pens from Chinatown in fucking California when they didn't know they were selling bad shit. I have smoked things that were cured in a fucking oven. I have grown and didn't know what the fuck I meant when I meant, oh, I gotta actually flush this plant. We go through our transitions as smokers, but it does matter. And I said earlier that I had smoked very early. My listeners know that. I didn't know the feeling of a medicinal benefit for me until I was in my 20s. My body recognized it and used it as so. But like, how do I say this? And this might be something you may or may not want to discuss, so you tell me pass if you don't want. But I am from New Orleans, and when we talk about early substance use, I was 12, also drinking in the closet with my friends here in Parachute. like taking rounds. One looks out, you drink a little, one gets out the
Oh
closet.
yeah,
Straight
that's
up,
where the fun
early.
happens.
And my mother, like by the time I was like 11 or 12, she would like have a glass of wine with me, Rachel, you know, which isn't really bad in our culture. I don't even look down on that, honestly.
But when you're a kid, that's the most exciting thing ever.
Well, but you also don't have the feelings you do as like maybe a coping mechanisms or other things like that, which I could easily be an alcoholic because of the fact that I crave it all the time, but I don't do it because my stomach won't let me.
It's funny you bring up alcoholism because I'm just coming out of a 4-year alcoholism, I guess you could say, chapter of my life. And I mean, when I say just coming out of it, I mean fresh, like 6 days.
Salutes.
6 days sober from alcohol.
Well, hey, you don't know how many people that are on my podcast have went through it or are going through it, or in our community have understood the process. So you're not alone. You just got like a ton more support. And
And I did bring up to you about the Mets situation from Missouri, and I had to get away from that, but I brought myself out here to a whole new monster. Whenever I first came out here, and full disclosure, I ended up experimenting with coke, rich ski towns, fucking having fun, especially drinking. And so I ended up actually having to delete my guy's number and never want to touch it again because I started getting somebody with an extreme addictive personality. I like to push shit as far as it can go, and I didn't like waking up with bloody noses anymore. I didn't like the way that it made me feel.
That's horrible.
Yes.
My heart hurts for you. That's scary.
Tell myself it's time to stop. I can't even get mad or judge my other family members for what they do if I have my own issues.
It just makes it easier is the whole point of it.
Pretty much.
It doesn't make it easier to quit. It just makes it easier to start.
Exactly. So, one thing that I've recognized as somebody myself with an addictive personality is if you're going to be hard on yourself and be addicted to anything, be hard on yourself at the gym and become addicted to the gym. Progress, build yourself up, because not only once you start seeing progress at the gym, you'll start seeing progress in your mental and spiritual health because you're taking such good care of yourself, eating proper meals, become addicted to bettering yourself. And what I mean by be hard on yourself too is a lot of you folks out there with addiction issues, you drink to escape or whatever your reason is, you're hard on yourself. You don't respect yourself in the way that you want to, and you're just withering away your time with substance. If you're going to be hard on yourself and treat yourself like shit, tell yourself, no, you deserve to keep pushing. You deserve to keep pushing. You're not going to quit. Don't be a quitter. And I'm speaking some Joe Rogan shit, but it's true. And
okay, I'll say this. It's not a matter, like, this is kind of a statement, but using a little bit of a different quote, but from Dr. Phil, it's not a matter of why not, or why, it's a matter of why not. Like, meaning, if you're going to do anything for yourself to get out of that state of mind, it obviously isn't paying. It's the insanity card, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Exactly.
It really is real. The one thing I'm just going to vent for a moment here, and I think you might have some clarity on it, is some of these AA and other organizations. In my last podcast, actually, I found, the previous one to my NOLA Mama 504, our first part, I didn't know how much they literally are a scam with these coins and whatnot, like pushing the religious card and everything else. A lot of that is even built right back into Scientology's model. So it is a money marketing scheme for some of these organizations to not actually ever get you well, to only keep you in a cycle coming back to them like they're Kmart.
Because you know what? Whenever you go to rehab for your addiction issues, what's the first thing they want to do? They want to suggest alternate alternatives to your addiction. So, and that doesn't really do any good because you're still basically
we're replacing
putting something in your body to replace what could naturally be created.
Not giving you skills, because I'm sorry, the talk therapy works, but then the networking has got to be dangerous.
And AA, I'm sorry, not
you can
sorry,
be honest,
really,
a lot of people have given their 2 cents here.
AA is definitely a huge scam because the biggest thing that they preach is keep coming back. Keep coming back. And that's the biggest goal that they want. They don't want to see people actually evolve or transform and move on to a different level of their life. They want to see people keep coming back, keep listening to the same old sad shit. You can only talk about so much in AA. And I'm sorry, but whenever I voluntarily went to AA, every time that I went, it was once a week, and I went for about 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just a one and done thing and give my opinion on it. I actually submitted myself into it voluntarily, and I learned that the majority of the people in this small town that I was in that went to AA had already been sober for 19, 30, 40 years. Jeez. And so nobody was going along the journey with me. And I think a lot of you young listeners out there that are reaching out for help are going to find, if you haven't already, the same thing. A lot of people that you reach out to are long past the part of the journey that you're in, so nobody's really going through it with you. Right. You really do have to do it alone if you want.
It's accountability at the end of the day, right?
Exactly. You have to want it, and you have to do it alone. You have to be so fed up. You have to realize that you don't like the way that it makes you feel. Because let's be honest, especially with alcohol, it's fun to drink, it's fun. But whenever you find yourself to the point of you don't want to stop that feeling, you don't want to get off the ride, and then you find yourself relying on it to not feel like shit, it's time to stop, and you have to want it. You have to be ready, but you also have to realize that you're in it alone. It really is a battle within you, nobody else.
I have to just put my toe in here, and this is a shout out to when this does air. I need to have an episode with you and my other Missouri person I mentioned, because what you just said there is so profound, and he would be like yelling, and he's from Brooklyn originally and then moved to Missouri when he was like 13. So, you know, he got it like teenage years, like on, and then the hard city. Yeah. And I mean hard. And he's a heroin addict, and he has been in and out of rehabs since he was 15. And nothing worked, and pills don't work, and it is a mental health issue, but the drugs have created the mental health issue, and without the drugs, you understand the cycle, you get it, like boom, 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 back and forth.
It's a merry-go-round.
And at this point, he's in between, and he wouldn't hate for me to say this, he'd just feel a little bit like, Rachel, damn it, you said it, you know, here we go. He's planning to come on, but I have to get you on, like both of you on the show, because he has said regularly that like the clinics make lifetime patients, that's their agenda, and the AA makes lifetime friends, that's their agenda, because if you have each other like they tell you, that's so pyramid scheme. There's nobody professional there, even someone who's went through it, right? Wouldn't you agree? Not everybody's addiction's even the same.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it's not fair to say that. Their own monster. It could be a pain thing why somebody uses heroin versus someone else. And my dear ex, who will be hearing this, unfortunately has moved on to fentanyl. And that is just a horrible reality. And he's quite aware. He's already overdosed twice. It took him 5 Narcans. Each time, he's a 5 Narcaner. What the fuck? And he was very blunt. And I was like, no. And I was like, he said he did, like, you know, he's suicidal all the time because he has literally, the drugs have taken his life. It matters way more than a lot of, it's very hard probably to hear this, listeners. And it probably sounds like I don't give a shit. Oh, it's far from it. It's that he's acknowledged it. He tells me I'm forever going to be an addict. This man has called me so many times in the middle of overdosing. And I've had to hear him on the phone and him say, please be the last person I listen to. It's horrible. Just talk. I just want to hear you talk. As he was trying to kill himself. I'm sorry. It's terrible. But that's what drugs do. They take your soul. Am I wrong?
No, and that is everybody. Because a lot of people, they dip their toe in the water, and next thing they know that they're neck deep.
They don't even recognize themselves.
Coming in.
I mean, do you feel like, okay, so I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but I wrote a little note. So you said between 14 to 17, you were in the boys' homes, right? Did you get emancipated into an apartment or something?
No, so whenever I was 17, what freed me from the system was jail.
Got you. Okay.
So
because of that
I was
1 year.
supposed to, like I said earlier, be in the system until I was 21 years of age. And then whenever I went to jail, I was no longer in state custody. I was in county custody. So they gave me a choice. You can either, whenever you're released from jail, we're charging you as an adult, so we're going to give you an adult choice on where you want to go after this. And my caseworker stood up and intervened and said he's supposed to be coming back with me so we can get him back in the system. And I looked at the judge and I asked for permission to speak. I said, now hang on a minute. You're giving me the choice. And my choice is to go back to my dad's.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I said that, my state worker, my caseworker, she looked at me. I shit you not, with so much frustration, kept her mouth shut though, packed up all of my papers, folders, and everything into a binder and left the courtroom, and I've never heard from her since because she knew that I was right. And
wow.
It was amazing.
You were a ticket for them.
Exactly. And my caseworker was frustrated because I was a moneymaker for them. And
did you get moved around a lot?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can you tell any of the stories that matter in your life that you really think need to be heard? I will be quiet.
If this can prevent any other kid from having to go through it, and I understand that some kids do need that kind of help, but I really recommend for any kid or even parent that needs to hear this, that is struggling and thinking about putting their kid in the system, please have an advocate and let the child speak and have a voice. Because from my personal experience, whenever I first went to the boys' home, or first got put in the system,
mm-hmm.
I went straight to a psychiatric ward for juveniles. Okay. And they kept me there for evaluations, for pretty much a lot of testing, everything. And that's where I got misdiagnosed with a lot. And so they juice you up on a bunch of meds. They don't let you have a voice. They just do what they want. And I was locked on.
Comfortable, and I have to interrupt you, sharing what they misdiagnosed you with, because you are like the 6th or 7th person on my podcast in about 3 years that are almost telling me the same exact story about how a doctor got them on this fucking prescribed trail.
That right there should be enough of
voice
whenever everybody's story is lining up exactly the same without me even knowing.
I'm going to be sending you some stuff. I'll say that.
So definitely.
Bipolar by chance? Manic disorder by chance? I don't know.
I got diagnosed with manic depressive disorder.
Mm-hmm. How old were you when you were diagnosed with that?
I was 14. That's right whenever I entered into the system.
Okay, making sure.
So
and
I got diagnosed with that, and then along with, there was a whole stack of papers, but it went on and on and on and on. And all the way as far as what pissed me off the most was they went as far as diagnosing me with mild schizophrenia.
So are they giving you those drugs?
I never gave them any signs, you know what I'm saying? Like they just literally do what they will
with your brain. Science experiment.
And I really do think that it's a way for them to test medications for them.
Were you on Adderall early in your life?
I was on Adderall mixed with, they had me on it started off about 2 or 3, and they just kept on adding to it until the point where I was on about 7 or 8 meds a day, and they were all counteracting each other. So it was just creating a fucking chaotic storm with the chemicals in my brain.
Right.
Along with being locked in.
And being neglected by your family. And being confused by the system in general. Having no fucking rights as a considered minor.
Pretty much. So it really hits you all at once. And then you start to realize that's whenever, because I was just going to go with the whole fake it till you make it method and hope that I got out early. But it really does press a motherfucker to the point where they do start to act out and rebel. And then it really makes them look like they're right.
It creates the mental health patient. I have been saying this since fucking 2012. I have documented
this shit. You can go in there with no problems at all and walk out with chaos.
It's a business, first off. They run like a business. They pay taxes like a business. So their agenda is a business. Sorry, medical industry, but it's true. And I am not a doctor.
I'm not sorry to the medical industry at all.
They screwed up my body physically. They had me on a lot of medications early.
What it did for me was it created a addictive personality that I didn't have before. I went to high school and I smoked cigarettes at parties. I drank and stuff at high school parties. But it was a every once in a while thing. Whenever I was a child, I was not addicted to jack anything. So whenever I got out, that was the biggest thing. Was I was like, okay, I need to self-medicate. So I jumped straight into the worst one possible, methamphetamine.
And how would you use it? Because that's very important. I've tried to learn the fucking facts, but I didn't realize there was plenty of ways to use it. So
I never used a needle, even though I was around a lot of people that did.
Gotcha.
I never could bring myself to. I didn't want to throw away that part of myself, and so I either, if that makes any sense.
No, you're absolutely right.
But, I started out with smoking it, and then that didn't do any good. So I increased my buzz by either, they call it parachuting, matter of fact. You wad some up in a little corner of a piece of toilet paper or whatever.
Oh, wow.
And you eat it. And
God.
It creates a longer lasting, more intense. It's the closest thing you can get to actually injecting it. And
holy fuck.
Yes. And I decided one day, through the great help of one of my dad's friends, who's an old hippie, he took me out of my dad's house occasionally to get me out.
Smart.
Help me find work and go sit by some water and everything else, just to get me out, show me brighter sides to life.
Right.
And my dad hated him because that was the only time that he really got to spend with me, was our toxic drug usage together. So I was ready though. And my dad's friend, who is now I call him my spirit guide, seriously, for many reasons, but I ended up going to live with him, working with him, got off of methamphetamine, but we drank a lot. So we became alcoholics instead. I went from one to another. And it's easy to do.
Heck yeah. Well, because it's a drown out method either way. We'll admit that.
Exactly. And it was my only way out. So
but
I was enjoying drinking. I went straight from doing uppers every day to downing myself with alcohol. And I wasn't even making it fun anymore. Me and him started out like that, but you can only have so much fun until it causes a lot of trouble. And so I eventually, a couple years of living with him, I moved out and got an apartment for myself. And believe it or not, this is going to blow your mind. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
I was 19 years old at the time.
Mm-hmm.
The price of my apartment, and I don't want to really disclose the town name, but It's in southeast Missouri.
Okay.
And it was in a downtown little brick building.
Right.
$375 a month with utilities included.
Oh my God. Did you have a voucher? How the hell did you get that so cheap?
It was a 1-bedroom, 1-bath.
That's
and
awesome.
It was in a shitty part of town.
Oh, well, then you heard things outside at night.
Oh my God. So I was right across the street from a bar, actually, the biggest bar in town. And so my window was on the second story that faced the bar.
Oh, shit.
So there would be some nights where I would wake up to the sound of like breaking glass or people yelling, taking their fights out to the parking lot. And this is really funny. One night I woke up to somebody arguing, and then a guy was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna bust in your windshield," and threatened that, and then actually ended up doing it. Like broke a car's windshield, alarm went off, and everything. People are yelling, and then the guy that he had an altercation with said, "You busted the wrong car."
Oh,
and
jeez.
Guy got his ass beat by like 9 different people.
Oh my God.
So
I understand.
That's why my rent was so cheap.
Oh, that's a good point. Man. See, I lived in a California apartment similar. It was a college town and had the same thing, but I would get like naked stragglers who would like, it's a party town with like frat boys. So they were taking people's clothes after they were drinking, and they were like wandering the streets and sleeping in bushes. It was hysterical. I understand. So then you were saying, I have to ask, the boys' homes, did you experience fights and all the other shit? The fucking, like, because I know that it's cliquish as shit, and you live in like a lockdown mode. Everything's locked up in sometimes lockers and stuff, right?
Yes. So that first place that I told you about, basically the lab, is what I want to refer to it as.
Well said.
I left the lab about 6 months into being into the system and went straight from there to the boys' home that I have mentioned.
Right.
So when I went to the boys' home, it was actually in a house structure, but doors were locked. You still had to be checked all the time. You still had to ask permission to have your bathroom unlocked, just all that bullshit.
Wow.
And still kept you on meds. So I, believe it or not, I wasn't around too many fights. There was some tense moments where most of the fights, though, were between the youth and the staff members. And I actually remember one time, me and my friend, we were actually at this alternative school through the boys' home, and they had a tornado drill one day. And so I was talking to my friend, who me and him were talking about running away for a very long time.
My brother used to do it frequently, so I hear you.
We packed up a change of clothes into our school backpacks and rode the bus, went to the school, and on our walk from the school down to the gym, because it was 2 different buildings, we decided to dart out of line. And we took off running in this town that neither of us were familiar with, just bolting, adrenaline rushing, craziness. And we ended up finding a storm drain and hid in it for, I want to say, every bit of about 2 hours. And we heard, of course, sirens, like cop sirens going off, going over us at the time on this road above us. And we just hid out there, and it was becoming dark, so we decided to crawl out the other end. And my buddy, he saw these 2 bicycles parked by Sonic. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. If we get caught, we get caught, but I'm not getting caught with a charge of stealing.
Right.
And so we kept on, walking around, trying to be discreet. We changed our clothes, actually, in the storm drain. So they weren't looking for the same description of clothes. We had this shit planned out. And anyway, so we end up getting to this alleyway, and I remember adrenaline was still rushing really bad, and we could still see in the distance in the streets. We could see staff vans, running around. It was a very small town, so the main church, was the one that funded the Boys Home organization.
Oh yeah.
So everybody knew everybody, and the word was out to look for us.
Yeah.
And so I remember we walk out of this alleyway, and immediately, bam, here comes a staff van. They pull up. One of the staff members opens the side door real quick, slides it open, jumps out, chases after us. And my buddy, I almost slipped up and said his name.
It's okay. You're good.
We take off running, and he's a little bit behind me, so I kind of slow down to keep my pace. I wasn't going to leave him. And I remember looking back and seeing him tackled on the ground by a staff member, and they had, I shit you not, I am not making up any extremes. It was really cruel. They had him on the ground, chest down in the grass, and the staff member's knee was digging into his back. It was pretty much like, I'm sorry, you guys, it was pretty much like the George Floyd situation. And so he was pinned down, couldn't move, hardly could breathe. And then
they treat you guys like criminals. That's the bottom
exactly
line.
And it was like a fight or flight moment. So I didn't want to leave him, and this was a test on my true character.
Yeah.
Whether I was going to stick with my friend and ride it out with him, or take off and continue my plan.
Right.
And so the adrenaline in me decided to make a shitty decision, and I became an unreliable friend for that, but I took off. Mm-hmm. And so I got to this point where there was this, like, I don't know what you would call it, but it was like this really, really deep and wide drainage ditch, and staff members were gaining in on me, and I knew I wasn't going to make the jump, but I went for it anyway, and I made it to the other side. But of course, now I had a huge incline to try to come up. And by the time I got up to the top of and outside of on the other side of this huge ditch, I got tackled, and the same fucking thing happened to me. And
were you gonna try to go to your family's house, or where were you gonna try to go?
That's a good question that I forgot to mention. I was actually 3 counties away from my dad's, but that's the only person that I knew that I had a place to sleep.
Well, you could have went to a McDonald's, and somebody would have helped you. That's how things are.
He didn't know what was or anything, and so they kept a lot of secrets. So I was just going to go back and camp in the woods and this will also run into why I went to jail. I was going to go back and camp in the woods. I made a second plan to run away, and my buddy was out. He didn't want any more of it. I couldn't blame him for the way that they got us and for our what we had to deal with when we got back.
Right.
But so I made a second plan, and instead of telling my buddy, I told this other kid that was in the alternative school who was not in the boys' home. I thought he was a really good friend of mine, and we had this one-on-one conversation, just me and him. That's an important thing for these people to hear. It was just me and him. And I told him, I'm going to run away, and I'm going to be camping in the woods, and I'm just ready to go home. I'm ready to go back to my dad's, and if they, you know what I mean? If they catch me, they catch me, but I'm going. And he was like, okay, well, take this. And he hands me this pocket knife.
Oh my
and I'm
God.
like, thank you, man. I was like, thank you, man. He's like, yeah, if you're going to be sleeping in the woods, then you're going to need it. And
that's huge.
For like camping and shit.
Right.
Yeah, so I fucking take the knife. Bam. As soon as I get off the bus from school that day, I'm surrounded with cops, staff members, everybody, and they tell me, we hear that from multiple students. This is why I said the conversation was with just me and him.
Right.
They told me that they heard from multiple students that I had a knife and that I was planning on stabbing any staff member that got in my way, stabbing a bunch of the youth, which I was friends. Like I said, I never got into any fights with the other youth. It was mostly with staff members.
Yeah.
Because honestly, the way we were all treated, the youth got along together pretty well. but I never had any, I never thought that I had any kind of bad name with the other student or with the other youth. So I was really surprised to hear that they would even say shit like I was going to play like a fish.
Right.
And that is in their writing. That is in their words.
Oh my God.
And I ended up, I handed them the knife and I said, no, it's not in me to hurt anybody. Like it never has been. I just wanted, I'll be honest with you. I was making another plan to run away and I was going to be camping in the woods for who knows how long because I'm 3 counties away. And that's why I had the knife. I have no intention. And I didn't even snitch on the guy who gave me the knife. But apparently he was the one that started the whole conspiracy thing. So
he set you up. There's bottom line.
He did. And so, and I still never told them that he was the one that gave me the knife. I just told them, I was like, here's the knife. I'm not trying to hide anything from anybody. And they're like, okay, well, this is just hearsay, so we're just going to open an investigation. Thank you for handing us the knife. So what they did was they opened an investigation, told me that nothing was going to come out of it because it's a hearsay case.
Right.
And I shit you not, 2 months later after they opened that investigation, and I wasn't allowed to go back to school within those 2 months, they kept me sitting on a wall with my legs crossed for the entire 8 hours that the other kids were at school.
Jesus Christ.
And that was for 2 months.
Did that fail you?
What?
Did that fail you?
It put me behind.
That's frustrating as shit.
So, and I was 4 credits away from graduating. Right. I was a junior, but I was ahead. And so
treated
sitting
like
on
a
the hallway,
damn fucking prisoner in isolation and all of that shit. Sorry, keep going.
So
crazy.
2 months went by, and I'm sitting at the chow hall eating with everybody. I remember I'm eating spaghetti, and the next thing I know, I feel these arms pull me out of the bench seat, and I'm pinned up against the wall, and my hands are pulled together to be cuffed. And I turn around and I ask, why am I being arrested? And they said, for conspiracy to commit assault in the 1st degree or attempt.
What?
And at 17 years old, they threw me in jail for 122 days because a kid said that I said something. And get this.
He provided the weapon, if anything.
Exactly. So, full of rage, full of hate and everything. I'm so pissed off at the world. The last several years of me being in the home, being tossed around, everything smacked me all at once while I'm in the back of this cop car, and I become bitter and hateful towards the world. And so I end up going through booking. They charge me as an adult, and they tell me that my charge is a Class C felony because it's the second closest thing to conspiracy to commit murder.
Jesus. And
I've never had an ill bone as far as wanting to hurt anybody in my life.
And that's your first jail?
Yeah.
Okay, that's scary.
Yeah. And I wasn't even scared as I was just pissed off, just angry and mad. And
like, who are you people? Who the fuck are you people?
Yeah, and how did all of this end up happening? And I was like, why? Why me? Like, why is the universe doing this to me? This is all just a series of straight up bad luck without me actually having to do anything.
So at this point in your life, were you, because you said between 14 and 17 you were in the boys' homes, you didn't get out until 17 and use drugs with your dad, so you were not using drugs at this time? You were just being put on drugs? No, whenever I was in the
boys' home, I was not using drugs. I was just going along with their system.
So their drugs were making you hostile and angry. Let's admit it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
And like I said, so the fake it till you make it thing, I still yet never had a hurtful bone in my body where I wanted to actually hurt anybody.
Because they were misdiagnosing you and they're giving medication to you. You weren't even a problem. You weren't taking the knife to go hurt people. You were going to get the fuck away from this abusive fucking jail system
that's where the
taking
part
children.
Where I said it's extremely important that anybody that considers the system to consider that the child needs a voice, because my entire situation through that few year period was all based on a series of bad fucking luck. Like, I found myself in the back of this cop car years of just chaos and moving around, being in the system, which I didn't feel like I needed. And I literally, I was just so pissed off because I didn't really actually do anything. And I know a lot of people, they play the victim, and I'm not trying to sound like a victim, but it's the honest truth. I didn't actually do anything to lead up to those events, and they still happened anyway.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting booked in, going back into the population, meeting everybody, and they asked me if I had ate, and I was like, well, I was in the middle of eating before I got arrested, and they're like, well, here. And so many of the inmates handed me their bowls of chili that were still warm.
Holy
and
shit.
Fucking, yeah, and it kind of calmed me down a lot. So I end up actually, the jailer, he opens the pod door. He's like, McFarland, come out. Shit.
You're okay. You're okay.
He opens the door. He's like, hey, come out. I need to talk. And I go, I walk with him, and he takes me to the sheriff. And the sheriff literally says, look, I don't want you to feel like this is us, that this is the county that is doing this to you. We feel like this is complete bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this, we can't do anything about it though, because it's the city who charged you, not the county. And so she made a very long, sincere apology. She actually told me she looked into my background, saw that a lot of it was unfair, reasoned with me and everything. And I couldn't thank her enough for actually seeing it and understanding. She's like, your entire case is such bullshit. I wish there was something we can do. I can go talk to the prosecutor for you if that does any good. And she actually did. She held her word.
Wow.
So the jailer, he would, even though I was 17, and I'm not snitching on anybody, but
right.
He would help me out by like slipping packs of cigarettes under my cell door, this and that.
Because he knew you were trapped in the system.
Yeah. And so he was a big help in creating my character. And I think jail was the best thing for me because they gave me a choice. They said, your caseworker informed us that you are on medication. Would you like to take them? And I was like, wait, you're giving me an option? Like, I'm not being forced?
Huge.
And so they're like, yeah, you're being charged as an adult. Everything's up to you right now. And so
shit.
I was like, hell no. Like, they're like, okay, well, with the medications and the dosages that you're on, are you sure? Because it could lead to some really unhealthy events.
They actually treated you like an adult to make a decision. Holy shit.
So I was like, I'm aware that my come downs could be really harsh, and that there could be some bad consequences to what I'm about to say, but I would like to refuse the meds. And they're like, okay. And it was the best thing for me because shortly after that, the sheriff, she comes up and she's like, I need you to grab your mat and your toiletries and anything else that you have in your cell, and we're throwing you in another cell. And I was like, why? She said, well, we just got informed by the Supreme Court of Missouri that we can't house a 17-year-old with the rest of the population. So I ended up actually...
goodness.
Yep. And that was about a month in. So I literally spent the last of the 3 months in a cell in the drunk tank, actually, by my fucking self.
Yep.
And it was the best thing for me, though, because I wasn't on meds. I had time to actually think and reevaluate, zoom out, think for myself for once, and actually piece together what I wanted to do with my life from there. And it helped open up parts of my mind that I didn't know I had because they were blocked off by these meds. And so...
Were you not allowed to talk to your family, or were you?
I didn't have any of my family's numbers or any way to reach out to them at that point. But
that's real, though, in the system as well.
Yeah. And like I said, the jailer, he would like get me out every once in a while, go smoke a cigarette and this and that. But I had a lot of time, 3 months at 17 years old, to just get off of these meds, start thinking for myself. And that's exactly what I did. Just think and think and think and think. And with that comes a lot of clarity,
Yeah.
but the other side of it is a lot of resentment towards what the fuck happened to me the last couple of years. Why couldn't I have and it starts raising all these questions that literally victimize
yourself. Do you have resentment towards Missouri State, and are you angry at the way that you were treated as a child?
I'm upset with the way that I was treated as a child, and I'm upset with the way that my friends and anybody else in the system was or is now being treated. Very highly upset with that. But I also don't let... There's nothing that I can myself do about it.
You're educating, though, the masses. I just want you to have a voice, though. Don't feel like you have to hold back. I'm grabbing a ginger ale. I'm here.
Awesome. It's not fair the way that the system treats kids. I would never personally put my child in the system. I would adopt them out to a close friend. I would explore every single option before submitting to the system, because it is one of the worst things that could happen to a child. And I gotta say, though, all honesty, I'm very grateful that for the chaos that happened in my life, because it created a lot of the paths that I would have never seen, and it really turned me into an entire different person than where I thought I was headed, in a good way. All the shitty things that I couldn't stand at the time, I'm actually thankful for now. But I'm not saying that to give anybody any clarity. Well, maybe it wouldn't be so bad to throw them in the system.
No.
It's only going to create problems.
It's when children are living in a situation that's literally dangerous for them. Like, let's be honest, were you living in a situation with your family initially that involved maybe cooking meth, like in the presence of you, or using needles in the present? I mean, were you seeing that kind of stuff before you were in the system?
Never.
Okay. And
as far as, like, I saw that my dad, that's where I was going to get into. He was definitely a big pothead, and he drank a lot. But as far as hard drug usage, if he did that before I got put in the system, then he hid it very well, because I didn't know him to be an addict until after I had already gotten out and went to live with him after jail. Let's give that beautiful painting of a picture. So you're let out of this nightmare. Court systems do what they need to. You get out, right? Things are dismissed, I'm assuming. Took 5 years for them to drop the case. I kept having to go back to court every several months so they could offer me a plea deal. And I turned them down on every plea deal, because for 5 years, every 6 months that I would go, which is 10 times, it's twice a year, literally, they would offer me plea deals, and I told them straight up. I told the judge, I said, Your Honor, if I may, you want me to hold my hand in the air, put my other hand on the Bible, and solemnly swear that I'm telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And she said, that's correct. I said, then I'm not guilty. And they couldn't understand that. So after about 5 years, they switched prosecutors, they switched judges, and the new judge took one look at the case and said, what is this? It's bullshit. We're done. He can, let's take this off his record completely right now. So they tried to keep you incriminating yourself when that wasn't even the status of what was going on. Exactly. That's horrible. So they figured out that I was smarter. Like, the whole time that I was out of jail, I was studying up on Missouri laws and Supreme Court laws. And so they figured out that I was gaining knowledge and becoming smarter against them, to the point where it was at a standstill for 5 years. They couldn't do anything. And it was really crazy, because by the time that you were out of that system, you were finally with your dad. Yep. You walked into his home that he welcomed you. Did you expect what you were to see the first night? What was it? What did it take a few weeks?
for you to see what really was going on? And you were
It
like,
was
no,
crazy
Dad,
how
no.
instant it happened, because then you're bringing up some really, really good questions. Because whenever I first got out, the first night I spent with my dad, it was more of, all right, let's go fucking get a really nice dinner.
Yep.
That, like an actual people dinner. And let's
catch up.
kind of catch up, get to know each other. It's been 4 years since you last knew where I was at.
You're my boy, all the things.
Yeah, and so I ended up, but we could talk on an adult level now.
Right.
And so he pretty much introduced to me that him and his wife, who is not my biological mother,
right,
that him and his wife were both meth addicts. And it kind of crushed me. But I was like, you know what? Fuck it. This is my life now. This is like, how much crazier could it get type shit.
Right.
I'm living with you. You're the only person that I'm living with. I already know that if I say no now, I'll pick it up later because you and your friends are the only people that I'm around. It's just going to make me fall into it. So I actually lasted. They would offer it to me quite a bit. And I actually lasted about a month. And telling them, no, it's not for me. I'm not interested. I don't.
Did you ever know anybody beforehand who had done it?
Yeah, friends' parents from high school.
Okay. So your perception was what it was at that point, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was like, wow, you guys just basically told me that you're the lowest scum on earth. And
no. That's horrible. I'm taking it in. I'm not laughing. I'm just like, Jesus.
It is horrible because that was my mindset. Don't get me wrong. That's not my mindset now. I'm going off of
you were still a child if you technically think 17. Fuck.
Yeah. And so I was like, wow, you guys just openly admitted that. Holy shit, I'm stuck in it too.
Were they sitting in the car together? I have to understand this painted picture. How did he tell you?
We were at dinner. We went
Jesus.
out to eat at a steakhouse.
Oh my God.
And that was the first night that I got out. But I lasted about a month living with them. Nowhere to walk to get a job because they're in this isolated ass trailer park.
Gotcha.
So nowhere to really walk to get a job. Nobody to really hang out with besides them and the people that were feeding their habits.
Of course.
I ended up succumbing to it. And whenever they had like this plate out with a bunch of lines on it, and had like 3 or 4 of their friends over, I shocked them all because I bent down and I fucking blew it up the nose. And
wow.
So after that, me and my dad got an even closer bond, but it was toxic because he was like, all right, now you're on my level type shit. And
I'm sure he was actually proud of it, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, very.
Like,
very.
that's my boy. I can only assume.
And that's the worst part is that's the most love that I've seen from him in my entire life was whenever we were doing the worst absolute shit to do on earth.
Okay, and I have to ask you, do you see yourself in your dad, or do you just recognize qualities of yourself in your dad? That's a true question. That's hard. Like, does it scare you, or is it enlighten you?
I definitely see a lot of parallel. That's a really good question. I don't really want to admit it, but since we're being honest,
please,
I do see a lot of similar qualities in my dad that I like. But here's the thing: is I like and respect the version of my dad that I created in my mind of him, but it's not really him.
You know how fucking healing that is to even admit? High five.
High five, fist bump, all of it.
Straight up, because I mean, I have a Confederate ass, racist ass motherfucking Christian believing, pigs are flying, pedos, crazy ass father, okay, who in his wonderland believes whatever, and I tell myself he just never showed up. You gotta get through it. You gotta get through it. And he's an alcoholic and a methadone user, so probably fentanyl now. Who knows?
I feel you. And
Harley Davidson non-meth user.
What's that?
A Harley Davidson non-meth user. You know them.
So, actually, it's funny you mentioned Harley Davidson because the friends that I mentioned that my dad was around all the time were all this meth gang of
That's
bikers.
where they get it. And somebody has to hand it
my
over.
dad
That's
wanted
not
to
going
be
to get
so part of this. I could see he didn't want to admit it because he was so like macho man, this and that. But I could see right through him, and I could tell the real reason he wanted to be a part of this biker gang is for the camaraderie, the brotherhood, to feel like he's part of something.
I respect you for saying the truth. And I'm sure you know your dad's life was taken by these fuckers' ignorance. He would be a totally different person if those bastards didn't come around.
Because I hung out long enough to realize that they were using him because they saw it too.
Yep.
That he wanted so bad to be a part of something, and I really hate to.
You're not hating
like that.
You're being blunt.
It's like it is the truth, and so they actually stepped all over him. They used him. They sent him on dangerous, sketchy ass runs with high consequences, and it was like I wanted so badly every single day to sit down with him and tell him, "Do you see what's going on? Do you see like?" And I just couldn't bring myself to do it. It's something he has to figure out as a man of his own.
You were on the level of an adult, and as a man to man, you can't. Look, I'm going to speak to the women in the crowd right now. Us bitches never can tell men what the fuck to do, okay? Stop.
Right.
You can suggest it all you fucking want, but they, brothers, men, guys, assholes who hate assholes, black, white, Chinese, whatever the fuck you are, men, they work it out in a different way. And I'll say this, men, sons, and fathers, brothers and brothers, work it out in different ways. It's either you grow up.
That's exactly it. It's so
you got to grow up. So
We're
you can't save
beings, but
a drug addict.
Women go about shit way
if they don't want to be saved. I don't mean to talk over you. Sorry.
No, you're all right.
He may not know how to be saved. Did he ever get saved? And I don't mean
pretty
Jesus.
Much. What saved me was going a couple years like this, and one of my dad's old carpentry buddies, the hippie guy.
Yeah.
He watched this go on, and he saw me, of course, from whenever the first time I lived with my dad before I got thrown in the system. So he still saw me as that little kid, and so he wanted what was best for me, and he pulled me out of my dad's, offered to drive me all the way to his work every day, fucking get off the meth, all that, and I was so grateful because I knew that was my only way out. And
hold on though, you were on meth since you were 17?
I was on meth from the time that I was 17 to the time that I was, I had just quit whenever I had just turned 19.
So hold on. That's 3 years, right? 17, 18, 19. So 3 years of your life was fucked by you trying to be close to your dad.
Yes.
Dealing with getting out of the fucking system. My heart hurts for you with all that legal bullshit, and get to know police in a different way inside
and that
the
was
jail.
Still, all that shit was still going on the time that I was trying to get to be like have a relationship with my dad, drugs, all
he
this.
Was taking you to court cases?
Hi, yes.
Oh my God! Mary Kennedy Blunt. Oh my God! Sonny? Woo! That's a moment. Do you know how that is such a moment and real in America? There's so much normal activity happening all around us. And fucking meth is stealing people. All kinds of drugs are stealing people's. He could have been doing so much more with his money and time. And your relationship. And let me ask you, is he rough from the meth now? Does it show in his body?
Big time.
Oh,
big time.
My heart hurts for you.
And it's embarrassing because whenever we did go out, like grocery shopping, anything like that, out in public, the way that his wife would act was squirrely and embarrassing. I did the best that I could to maintain my calm and my presence, which obviously, thinking back, it probably didn't work. But I still kept my manners in public, and I was acting basically every time that I went to public. I was acting, and
so you're not a good meth head. Is that what you're trying to say?
What's up?
You didn't do the meth head good. You're not good at it. You didn't just roll in and say "fuck life." You were aware of your surroundings.
Oh yeah, and
that's
I was
smart.
sick of doing it while I was doing it, and I kept telling myself like, "This isn't who I am." I didn't even like the way that it made me feel. I just did it.
Because it's cheap, I hear, like in comparison to a lot of stuff, which is weird to me.
Yeah.
But yet, okay, like
over time, though, it is cheap. But over time, if you really look at it, it costs you everything.
All right, I gotta ask the stupid questions here, and these are not stupid, but they're just hardcore that people who are listening, either they may not.
Get nitty-gritty with it.
I will. Here it comes. Was your family or even yourself, did you go, and I have friends, so this is how I know this, and makes me sad. It hurts my soul because they went through it alone. So I'm sure there's parts of your life through the meth you went through alone, even when you didn't want to use it.
We'll get there.
And you were like dealing with like potential weird shit, like were they taking things apart off the walls or like random activities of wasted energy you were dealing with.
So it's crazy because the whole biker thing.
Yes.
My dad had a bike and he spent the majority of his time out there with a flashlight 24/7, taking apart his bike, stringing the parts all along, all the way from outside to inside the house, all over the kitchen.
Yep.
Everything was so nasty because at the same time that they were so preoccupied in doing fidgety shit,
yep,
is the nicest way that I can put it. Their house at the same time, they could have put that energy into organizing and cleaning. And whenever I went to go live there,
yep,
and the time that I spent there, the house was, you were swimming through trash with dirty laundry mixed in it.
Oh.
There were dishes on the counter. It was the worst possible. You guys get the picture.
Absolutely.
So I really did kind of feel alone, even though I was doing it with them. I was still outside of it enough to know, if that makes any sense.
No.
That wasn't. I was still on the outside lines enough to see what was going on and hate it.
And comparison to your grandmother. Right?
Oh yeah,
I had to be a completely different environment.
Nice house, grandparents' house. It was super nice. They had a little ranch with horses. Like that was a really interesting. I want to say middle class, like 2 years of my life. The only 2 years that I lived with them. And so it was one extreme to the other, but I was already used to bullshit and used to having to adapt to my surroundings from the time I was in the home. Right. So whenever I got out, whenever I went to jail, learn to adapt, learn to adjust, learn to overcome. It's a big military saying, adapt, adjust, overcome. And that became my reflexes, that became my senses, became my second nature no matter what. So along with that, living with my dad, adapt, adjust, and overcome to your surroundings. And that was a toxic way to do it.
To adjust to the drugs that are around you, to overcome.
Adapt to, like,
I can take a bigger hit than you think.
Become comfortable. Yeah, basically settle for less and become comfortable is basically what that saying is. I'm sorry to the military family. I do respect you guys big time.
Absolutely.
Every man in my family was in the military, served. I can't stress enough how much I respect the shit out of you guys. But that saying basically stems down to become comfortable with the bullshit.
Isn't it odd?
I guarantee you they could agree. I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, if you ask a old Marine or a war vet what that saying means, they'll agree with you that become comfortable with the bullshit. And that became my second nature for years.
And then prioritize your stressors. That's basically a Libra advice. I'm sorry, but
basically, yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
I mean, they're all going to be stressful, but really, I mean, you can keep changing it. I don't know if you've ever put something in your cart and then taken it out and put something again. That's stress.
That's a great analogy.
You keep changing it up all day, but something's going to change. It could be cookies in your cart, that metaphor into like somebody you shouldn't be fucking with, bad cookies, sweet nothings.
Yes, bad cookies. I love it. I love it.
Bad cookies, or
bad cookie. You're a bad cookie, bro.
When I was
gotta
like,
cut you out. Gotta weed you out.
That's
of my
right.
garden.
So when I was like, I don't know, 19 or 20, I was in this fucked up relationship for way too long. And this person was a beginning alcoholic, okay? And he used acid a lot. And but it was a bad situation. Well, but it was bad because he played Nintendo. And not Nintendo. It was fucking World of Warcraft or something, the actual games, okay? He was a nerd. But this person had what was my point? Fuck, I totally lost my blah, 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 blah. What were you saying? You were saying before. Adapt, all that. Okay, here it is. Marshmallow and a keyhole. So I used to say, there are situations that are good. And this can be in all. This is not just relationships. This is like real connections. It can be a sticky fucking mess, right? Your marshmallow and a keyhole. Try that one on. It will turn into a crusty little nasty whatever the heck.
Sounds like a mess.
Sweet nothing. So if you put energy into things that are more solid, like a key to open up doors, you will get through it. But looking through and trying to shove whatever you can that's just fluffy and cute, it doesn't work.
That's exactly right. And me and my buddy were actually talking about that earlier this morning, about it. Some things, marshmallow and a keyhole, are not worth your time.
Nope.
As far as I told him, I was like, this morning, actually.
That's funny.
I told him,
I want a tramp stamp with that. I want a tramp stamp with the marshmallow and keyhole.
Yeah.
It would be funny.
I told him, I was like, this life is meant for us to pour into others what is poured into us, as far as positive advice. Love is important, and I don't care if it's between strangers. Show some love. Just crack a smile. You pour into others what's been poured into you, that you've been, whether it's advice that you've been blessed with.
But you also don't hoard people. You don't hoard them and hold on
the thing that I was
who are bad for you. Go ahead.
A lot of people aren't worth pouring into. They're a bad cookie. And like we talked about with men, you can try to share as much advice with somebody as you want. You can try to change somebody.
Yep.
But it's not worth shoving the marshmallow in the damn keyhole, because they're gonna change when they're ready.
That's right.
That's where I say pour into others what's been poured into you. But if the cup is broken and not wanting to be filled,
right? Have you seen
not worth it.
The meme on Facebook or somewhere where there's the guy sweeping up water from the beach? Have you seen that before?
Yes, it's a waste of fucking time.
And he's like, he's mopping it. I'm sorry, he's not sweeping. He's like mopping it over it. I mean, if you feel like it's busy work, you're wasting time.
I'm going to take this to another level.
Please.
So we covered a lot of the journey and went really into detail. I'm going to bring us to the Colorado side.
Let's do it. We've hit it. 19 years old and you moved on. So where are you in life? What happened?
So 19, I was still in Missouri. I was in my apartment, had my own shit, getting it together, was walking to work every single day, extra hours, all of it, saving money.
What were you doing?
Making goals.
You were making goals. He's bombing them out. Go on.
So that's exactly right. I was writing things down, prioritizing, clean and sober from meth at this point. I had just turned 19, and it was still winter. Was walking from my cheap apartment all the way to work, about 30-minute walk, and I was loving every bit of it. So I ended up meeting this girl that I was working with. Don't bang your coworkers, guys.
It's also illegal sometimes. Just saying.
So she offered me one day to get a ride to my apartment, and I told her, hell yeah, and we immediately started hitting it off. Like, didn't even make it to the house. We're already holding hands, like talking about going upstairs and shit. And so, yada, yada, yada. Shit happens. She leaves, and she offers to do this every single day. So then you got a locked-in booty call. Sorry, go ahead. 3 weeks. Yeah, young, dumb, full of cum.
There you go.
And, 3 weeks we knew each other and got hitched.
Oh, shit.
And this is going to be the real bombshell. Are you
Here
guys
it's coming.
ready? She was 37 when I was 19.
Oh, shit.
And she was a hot mama.
Gotcha.
But, so in my mind, my young and dumb mind, hell yeah, I got a MILF. Like, this is fucking living the dream. And then I ended up moving in with her. And
See, hold on. Do MILFs, not drugs. Go on.
There you go. Yeah, MILF and cookies all day, and that's pretty much it.
No, and, no, we're gonna end it now. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
I moved in with this chick, and like I said, we barely knew each other, and all that our tie was based on was lust,
gotcha.
Which is very toxic. It's poisonous.
Absolutely.
And so, about a month into being married, I come to the realization: holy shit! What did I do? What did I jump into? Why did I do this?
Did the mask start falling right away?
About a month into it. It was just one-sided. She was still like that puppy love, like it was unbelievable. And I was, she could see that I was becoming a little distant because I was posing these questions every day. What am I doing here? What could I be doing differently? I'm so young, and I've always had a traveling desire. I've always wanted to get out, like, even as a little kid.
Right.
I remember my entire childhood, every time that I thought about the West, I had a longing in my heart. Like, it was a physical, almost a painful, nostalgic feeling calling me to the West, even though I'd never been out there.
Yep.
So I was like, I could be traveling. What am I doing with my young life? Like, what the fuck just happened?
And she had children?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Okay, so you became a father immediately. Holy shit, sir.
And that was selfish on my part, not thinking about them. And and it also makes me wonder, with her being so much older, though, where
dangerous,
was her head
mind.
at?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was she thinking? But she didn't see any of that. And it was
high
wild.
five to a smart man speaking.
I held her to a higher standard because of her age than what was real.
Yeah. And subconsciously you protected her kids by coming in.
Kinda. I was like, I don't want to be one of the guys, just another one of the guys in their life. So I hung around a little. I didn't just come in and leave.
Gotcha.
And I was there for about 3 years, but as time went on, I got more and more miserable.
Oh, God.
And as time went on, she lost that lust craving as well, and saw that I was becoming really distant. Married. So, yeah, and so we were, we didn't know each other, and we were actually finding out who we were in each other a couple years later. God. And we were both alcoholics, and so we had a lot of argumentative moments. And I'm not talking bad about her at all, because I won't.
No.
There was some faults in myself too, but
can I ask
I'm going to say we on everything. We didn't know each other. We brought out the worst in each other, and we both didn't know exactly what we wanted in life. So what she did was she was super clingy, and it made it hard for me, because she showed me that she really did love me, but and she did a lot of kind, like, little gestures for me. She introduced me to a lot of bomb-ass foods, a lot of bomb-ass music.
Right.
And like, she put me on a lot of good shit in life, and kind of opened my eyes on different ways of thinking.
Right.
And I had to sit down with her one day. I was working at a sawmill at this time, and I had a buddy that was originally from Colorado that moved out there to be with his mom because she was getting old and sick. And my buddy, all of my friends, even my ex-wife, everybody's so much older than me, right?
Right.
So I became best friends with this guy, and we were talking, and he used to hear her dropping me off at work at like 6 a.m, along with everybody else hearing it, just screaming, cussing my head off, like,
oh man,
and that's how I started my mornings. So Terry, he asked me, he's like, "Are you okay, man? Are you like, you're young, dude?" Like, and he was telling me what I needed to hear, what was real. And he didn't hold back either. He was like, "What the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, I see so much more in you. Like, just, I know that you're not going to leave until you're ready, but there's so much more to life, brother." And it was everything that I needed to hear. So I ended up having a talk with her, and I said, "Hey, my friend from work, he has a business that he's going to be starting up next year in Colorado, and he owns his own pressure washing, gutter cleaning, and window cleaning business."
Mm-hmm.
And so I told her I was probably going to be taking him up on his offer to go work 6 months out of the year and come back home to her 6 months out of the year.
That's good money.
And she gave me an ultimatum that she said, "No, it's either me or Colorado." And she's had some drunk nights crying, knowing beforehand that
you were getting
I think
sick
she
of
saw
it.
it coming. Like, she knew. She was like, "I know that you're really young and that you possibly have a better potential. Like, I want to see you happy. I see that you're not happy." Like, she could see shit for what it was when she was drunk, if that makes any sense.
No.
But she kept to herself whenever she wasn't drunk.
Was this her first marriage?
Yeah.
OMG.
And so,
that's
like, whenever
hard.
She would talk to me, and she would be super clingy, making it hard on me, though, to want to leave it behind, like, especially after all the good shit she has showed me.
Right.
And
you grew up with her. There's no way else to put it.
Yeah, pretty much. And so I sat down and had a talk with her, and I said, "Look, we're both thinking it. What are we doing?" And she's like, "Are you serious? I know where you're going with this." And I was like, "Then I don't need to explain anything. I just want to tell you that you told me that you wanted me to be happy, so I'm gonna be leaving after Christmas. I want to make sure that your kids have a good Christmas with everybody. Nobody's sad, and then I'll be leaving shortly after Christmas." So
that's a brave ass move on your behalf.
Yeah, and she just cried. She didn't say anything the entire night. She just cried.
Were you completely emotionless finally by then?
Yeah. Well, so what I say by bringing out the worst in each other, I can go back. Whenever me and her first met, she played off this. She had a facade, like a mask, and it was a whole different personality. So I actually loved her for the version of her that I created in my head as well, and it wasn't who she truly was. And so she told me, though, that whenever we first got together, that she absolutely hated her baby dad, and he was all the way in Texas, that she didn't want anything to do with him. Went into detail on PA and DA.
Yep.
And so we had an agreement that I'm not like that. I will never put you through that. And of course, obviously, you're going to go through some trauma, relationship trauma, and it's going to reflect off of him onto me. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to work with you on that. And so
that's also brave of you. Holy shit.
And well, it was only right. I was already stuck in it. I might as well had to make it
and
as
you
right
genuinely
and as
loved
best
her.
as
I can see that.
And so we would get into it every once in a while. And one time we got into it, and she she was like, "Let's go out to the mudroom and smoke a cigarette." And so I lit my cigarette. She went in for a lighter, but walked me out in the mudroom. So like fucking 30 minutes went by, and so I got up, started knocking on the door again, and then I started getting upset. So she said, "Call Jerry, who's my friend that pulled me out of my dad's, to have a better life." And so I called him. I was like, "Hey man, I need you to come get me." So she actually didn't let me come back home for about 2 weeks. And while I was living with him, he was actually showing me every reason of why I should go back to stay with him instead of be married anymore. Like, it was opening my mind on what life could be like away from that.
Yeah.
Like, getting back into the groove of how me and him used to hang out. And because she hated whenever I would hang out with anybody. It was
That's
just
abusive.
me and her. And so living with him, about 2 weeks went by of me asking her, can I please come home? Like, just the whole crybaby shit.
Right.
And by the second week, she calls me, hey, I'm ready for you to come home. And I was like, I don't know now. And, being iffy.
Right.
So I end up caving, and she comes to get me. Jerry's all sad. He's like,
what are you
you'll
doing,
leave when
dude?
you're ready.
Yeah.
And so I go back, but he has been in my corner through no matter what. Like, no matter what decision I make, he still stands on it.
That's a good friend.
Yeah, and he finds a reason to justify even my bad decision making. And he's been an amazing friend, but I ended up going back, and to find out that her kids told me that their dad was home the whole time that I was gone.
Oh.
And so I sit down with her. I'm like, really? And she's like, it's just for the kids. It's just for the kids. It's just so they can see their dad, and I don't want to rob them of that. So I was like, you know what? That makes sense. I'm going to trust it. And there's no reason why a dad should not be able to be around his kids, especially if,
he's trying.
They could change, and he's trying.
Right.
So I bought it.
Okay.
And so she finds out how easy it is for me to get rid of me at that point and just hang out with him. So time went on. She would kick me out. I'd go to Jerry's, fucking cry to come back. And so
it's a control mechanism.
So that's where by the third year I became so emotionless and told her I was ready and watched her cry without really feeling anything.
Did that upset your whole soul to finally see who this person was?
Yeah, big time.
You're probably not fully over it. I'm being honest, like, not an asshole, but that's got to be some fucked up shit.
You're right, because it really created a bunch of walls. Like, I built a bunch of walls from it. I left her and followed Terry out here to Colorado.
Yeah.
And I was just in a car and a little pop-up camper. And this was in April of this year. So I left her in December, but stayed at his camp from December to April until we left. So we could have time to make a solid game plan.
Yep.
He wanted to know if I was 100% committed. And I told him, yes, I just want to start over. This is my reset. I've always wanted to go out west. So this is everything. And there were little signs too that kept pushing me. Like, when I would be on the fence about it, like, should I just stay around everything that I know and everybody I know, or should I just take the leap of faith and go for it? And so I was on that fence a lot, and I didn't know what I was coming into with Colorado, but it was everything beautiful.
And how did he know about this area? You have to share that story.
So he lived out in Colorado Springs when he was 18, and then just moved around the whole state and hung around Glenwood and Junction a lot. So whenever he went to Missouri and started working at the mill and taking care of his mom, he bought a camper. And he was like, I love the RV lifestyle. It's so minimalistic. It's quiet. It's peaceful. There's a lot of freedom in it. And so I followed close behind and got a pop-up camper. No solid walls, but it was something.
Yes.
And so he was looking up where we were going to crash land out here, and we tried to get into a RV park up valley.
Yes.
But they were all booked out. His camper is too old, yada, yada, yada. They have so many restrictions.
Yep.
So we keep looking online, and he found this one over here in this quiet little Whoville town.
Absolutely. My goodness. What did you think when you first drove up?
So we actually stayed our first couple nights in .0 at this by this canyon. There's this campground that was fully boondockable. We could have fires, this and that, fall asleep to the sound of rushing water, and it was everything beautiful. But whenever it got time to get out of there, because Colorado laws, you're not allowed to stay anywhere longer than a week. So we end up going to this paid site out here, and after seeing the other part of Colorado and then coming out to the high desert where we're at, it was different. I wasn't really fond. Like, I wanted to be up in the stereotypical Colorado mountains,
right?
But
where it's like
as
isolated.
time went on, this town has grown on me, and I'm falling in love with it. And I'm beginning to appreciate the views with a little brighter color in my eye.
You were here during the fire, am I correct?
Yep, the Spring Creek fire. Sure
Holy
was.
crap, and you're like right in that location. Were you seeing it firsthand popping up?
Yes, and I have a lot of videos that I would love to show you to prove it.
We'll have to do a collab on that, because I have a lot too. I was outside on the phone with a subscriber of mine, a friend of mine, on the phone, and I was too scared to call the police, so she three-wayed it in from where she lives.
There you go.
It was a crazy moment. So yeah, if you saw it.
We were actually coming from Glenwood, from the other side of the canyon, and we were going through the canyon, and on the other side we saw this big cloud of smoke, and we thought that because it was so huge and blocking out the sun so much, we thought that it was closer than what it really was. And we leave Glenwood, we're still seeing this smoke hover above us, and it's we're going through Newcastle at this point. It's looking like it's getting closer. We go through Rifle, it's looking like it's right there, and then we hit, and we're thinking, oh shit, everything's at camp, and this is on that hill. And so, like, the RVs are over there, like, what in the fuck?
If we started getting ash, it would have been.
Oh yeah, and we got up there, up to camp, and the fire was still, like, pretty high up on the mountain behind us, but it was creeping down, and we were watching these airplanes go by, dropping this pink shit, this powder extinguisher.
It was hot too.
It was like, yeah, definitely.
I had to keep my swamp cooler off. I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, everything was so dry, and so everything was. It smelled amazing
at first.
Found the silver lining in the wildfire, but it smelled like all that sagebrush.
We should do like a timestamp of your pictures and mine and put them together and do a whole video.
We should.
Because I know that NBC and ABC and the Times, New York Times and everything recognized the posts that I had been putting out. They didn't share them, but they liked them on Instagram and stuff like that. And all of Denver 9 and all that other stuff, my shit was being shared around. So
my dumbass was taking pictures while we were in Glenwood, thinking that it was closer than what it really was.
Denver saw it
on my story, prayers for Garfield County, like a dumbass, and then ends up being all the way over here. And I put a picture of Glenwood. People were getting concerned, and that's where miscommunication happens.
But do you remember the one that happened on the other side of the canyon as well, on Parachute
I wasn't here, but I heard all about it whenever I got my job.
I have pictures of that too, because me and my friend were like becoming, because I knew I had the eyes of a lot of viewers for my Instagram and stuff. I was like, we need to take photography of it immediately, because there's only a few people doing it. And this person had passed it twice. I'm telling you, I'm convinced we still have an arsonist. If this summer we have the fires we did last, we all got to move, because it's either planned fires or there's some crazy bitch, because we've had fires over by, do you remember the one that happened on the way to the golf course? You had to be here around that time too.
I wasn't actually living over here at the time because I got about 2 months into being here. I got a job with the Colorado Department. Well, no, first let me back it up.
Please.
I was living in my car. I moved away from down here because it's so far away from where I was wanting to work up valley by Vail and everything.
Right.
So I decided to live in my car. I took the second and third row seats out, built a bed platform, totes, slide outs, put a cooler that plugs in to keep food in, everything. And I got a job immediately at this golf club up in Edwards, which is really close to Vail. Super expensive golf club. It was like, wow, I went from trailer park doing drugs to now
Eagle
I'm in Colorado
County.
working at a golf club in a ski town.
Yep.
Like, how?
Isn't it Eagle County? Correct me if I'm wrong.
It was Eagle County.
Okay.
And so I was working at this golf club, and this is a really big part of my journey out here too. So I moved out here to start a new life for myself. I wasn't drinking at the time. For the first couple months, I left all my bullshit in Missouri. I left it all behind.
Right.
And so I was just completely transforming, evolving, doing everything that I could, and actually playing golf with these multimillionaires that were actually getting along with me and it surprised me because of where I came from.
Right.
And so I was like making friends with these people. So I ended up going out to drink with one of them after I got off work, and I drank way too much, and I left the bar. Got this bright idea. Instead of pulling into the bar, was literally 1 block away from the rest area, which I could have parked at and been done for the night. And I ended up driving all the way from over by Vail in Edwards all the way to Gypsum.
Oh my gosh!
Tried to.
Holy crap!
And I had already made a trip out to Arches National Park. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I can do this.
I'm good.
It was like 11 o'clock at night. I was driving actually pretty fine. I looked down at my phone, and by the time I looked up from my phone, I was off the road in these rocks. My car was just, the fuel safety switch cut on, so all my power cut out. I couldn't control anything. I couldn't hit the brakes, nothing. So
you thought you were going to die, probably.
I was just like, I was so drunk that no panic set in. I was just like, all right, I'm going to control this how I can.
Yep.
And I end up jerking the steering wheel as hard as I could to the right and fucking to try to get a sudden stop on it.
Right.
Because I was in these rocks, like boulders.
Yep. Break the axle, make the car stop.
Yeah. So I yanked the steering wheel over as far right in as short amount of time as I could, and I flipped my car. So these cops, they
into the rocks. Let's just put that out there.
So my car is laying face down on the passenger side, so my driver's side was facing towards the sky.
Oh shit!
It was nighttime, and so these people come up immediately in a Jeep. The first thing I do is light a cigarette and just sit there. And
shit.
And I'm just trying to think, and I was just like,
you're like waiting for police, waiting for something. You don't know.
Yeah, and so
take a breath.
Push up, almost like you're doing a fucking bench press. I'm pushing up on this door, drunk off my ass, crawling out of my car, and this Jeep comes up, and it's like, hey man, you need any help? And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm gonna wait for my friends to get here. And they're like, okay, man. And it was a fucking Jeep. I should have taken their advice. They said they had chains and everything.
They could have pulled you out of it. Yeah.
I literally, like, I'm on the phone with my buddy out here that brought me out here from Missouri, and I tell him what happened. He's like, shit, Caleb. And he's been a good guide for me. Like, he was proud of my progress from not drinking, everything, and I was honest with him. Told him I got in a wreck, and he's like, shit, Caleb, I'll be right there. He dropped everything, drove up this way, and about the time the cops beat him to the scene, basically.
Right.
And so they get there, and the cop, he talks to me, and I just open up. I'm like, man, I had a bad night. Like, I haven't drank in forever. I'm living in my car. I, went to the bar, had too many drinks, and I was just going to, drive around. And I was honest with him. And I was like, this isn't me anymore. Like, just all that drunk shit that they've heard 1,000 times.
Like, you knew that they were going to get you. You just wanted them to have some kind of mercy on you.
Pass it off. Yeah.
Yes.
But the cop said that he didn't smell any alcohol on my breath, but he went ahead and did the field sobriety test, and that's when Terry pulled up. And Terry told me he remembers watching me try to walk and kept telling himself, "Oh no, dude. Oh no."
God.
Right then and there, he hops out. He tells the cop, because the cop said that he was going to take me to jail for the night.
Right.
And Terry hops out. He's like, "No, wait, I'll sign whatever I have to. Like, he'll be under my responsibility until he sobers up." He has work in the morning. He has a job. He's living in his car. His situation is not the best right now. And the cop was like, "You know what? Caleb was really."
It's okay. You're okay.
He was really honest with me. So I'm gonna give you the saving grace on this. So my buddy signed what he had to.
Yep.
And they still took me into booking, did the breathalyzer. I blew over 3 times the legal limit. And so he ends up letting me out. Terry's there to pick me up. And I go to work. He drives me all the way from Parachute to Edwards that next morning. After having a really late night with the cops and everything.
A car accident,
it was
everything.
We had to leave here by 4 so I could be up there at 6.
Right.
And I was feeling so guilty. Now Terry's got to take care of my ass.
Yeah.
And he put himself in that position. He wanted to. He didn't want to.
Well, he knew he was probably the only one who could.
Yeah. And so he was like, "I don't want to see you go back to Missouri. Just let me help you where I can, and we're going to make this shit work. Trust me." And so he kept giving me rides back and forth to work until I could afford to get my car out of the car pound.
Yep.
And that was in Vail, of all places. So it was expensive as fuck. Cost me $680 to get it out of the car pound. And then they hand me my keys. I go to try to get out, and it won't start. So I ended up having to pay another $200 to have it towed all the way from Vail to Parachute, where my buddy's camp is.
That's surprising how cheap it is, though. I'm going to give you that.
Yeah.
You can't even get a taxi ride for that around here.
No, and
sorry.
So I literally, I'm working, staying in my car, going all the way to Eagleville, Edwards. Yep. So I told them, I was like, "Look, I got in this DUI. I'm not doing the greatest. It may be time for me to leave for the season."
Yeah.
And they're like, and I'm talking to, this guy has been on PGA tours, golf. He's a head administrator over there at the golf club. And he's like, "You know what, kiddo?" He's like, "We all make these mistakes." He said, "If you ask or talk enough about it to people, you'll find that 70% of Colorado is DUIs." And he said, "The majority of these millionaires you see here playing golf, they have had their share of DUIs." He said, "I myself have had a DUI." So he's like,
sometimes
don't let it define who you are. He said, "But do what you need to. I understand you for leaving, having to do what's convenient for you." He said, "I would love to see you back another season." And so I leave, and that was sad because they literally had just made me the chef. I was doing the prep work, I was serving the meals, I was the chef in the kitchen up there.
You need to tell me off air where you were working, because I think we know some of the same people. I'm kind of freaked out. I know a lot of the golf course people over there. And I was going to say to you that it's funny because Colorado DUIs and these millionaires, we're going to say it. It doesn't matter. I realized this a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to tell you this. It will really hit a nerve. It doesn't matter how much money you have. If you are a gang member, a cartel, a shopping cart member, you hear what I'm saying? A person with addiction issues. Money can't buy you out of it. But most people who are in those counties that have had that and lost their license do not have drivers because they make the money. They do because they're literally, their addiction takes over and they know it's just better. You know what I'm saying?
You'll see millionaires out there that'll get a DUI and be like, fuck it.
Yeah, take it. Take my license. Now I can drink in the back. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm being real.
And that's actually what my mindset was at the time, because get this, it being Eagle County, they wrote me the ticket, but gave me a court date for a Saturday, which was July 15th of this year. So I go up there and I go to open the doors. They're locked. Lights are out. Nobody's in the parking lot. And so I call the following Monday and I'm like, hey, my name is yada, yada, yada. My case number is yada, yada, yada. I'm calling in because I had a court date that I made it to, but nobody was here. Mm-hmm. And they're like, okay, well, we don't have your name in our system or your case number. You're good. So I was like, are you serious? Like, and they're like, yeah, you don't have a case. So I end up actually paying to get my car fixed. I'm driving around again. I go and I get my dream job, which was operating heavy equipment with the Colorado Department of Transportation. I opened up a door this summer where I quit drinking again. I quit smoking pot. And I was just sober as a judge. I go in and I work at CDOT now. And I'm operating heavy fucking equipment. Going from, you heard my backstory, to now this.
Yes.
And they're giving me $2,200 a month to pay for my fucking apartment in Glenwood Springs. It was amazing. It was everything beautiful.
Yeah.
And I was driving again. I had my job. I had my place. I had my shit together. And I had all three, the job, the car, and the place, at the same time for the first time in my life. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing. And seeing from where I came from to that, it just felt really good. But I was also, it created an anxiety. Like, I still wasn't fully settled with the idea that my court shit wasn't done.
Imposter syndrome, in a sense, maybe?
Pretty much. Like, I was like,
or self-sabotage.
I wanted to be. I literally was where I wanted to be. I had everything that I had fucking wanted so bad my entire life. I was in Colorado, you know, had everything going for me. And then I just had this anxiety, like, this is...
Okay, can I ask?
It could so easily be swept out from under me.
Was it a slight depression, though? Because you got to remember, you're divorcee. You were dealing with all that bullshit and wasted time, so it had to be.
And the whole time, this entire year, actually, next week will make it a full year that I am single.
Right.
I stayed single.
Smart.
And so I did, and move on and improve my life, get my ducks in a row, all that.
Right.
And so it was depressing, though, because of the loneliness.
Yep.
Like, everybody was congratulating me from Missouri, saying, you know, we're so proud seeing you from where you went from to now. Like, this is amazing. This is inspirational. So many people were telling me this.
Was it?
And I never showed the other side of it, though. The sacrifices, the loneliness, the
bachelor life that you were learning how to live.
Yeah. And, but I was still doing everything fun. Like, I went to the hot springs all the time. I went up the gondola to the adventure park. Like, and there was actually a park right next to my apartment that played live music every single Wednesday.
Oh, that's
and they did.
That's fun.
And I was just, everything was perfect. And I walked over to the park, watched live music all the time, was able to have fun, go out to eat at different restaurants in Glenwood.
Afford it.
Yes. And so, because I didn't have any responsibilities, nothing to pay except for my gas back and forth to work and food.
Right.
So I was just saving, being able to go out and have fun, do what I wanted, and live life. And literally, like, whenever Kevin is home alone or lost in New York, the Lost in New York was me in Glenwood, okay? I was fucking living it up.
That's fabulous.
And so I'm working, like, I had just got a raise with CDOT too, and it was only like a month in. And I'm working, getting along with everybody. So many people were actually, whenever I first moved into my place, they where people from work were dropping off like buckets and bags full of groceries.
Oh, so
gift
supportive.
Cards. Yeah, and they were like, you're young. We don't get people like you, your age, that have the drive, that have the desire, and that have had the balls to do what you're doing. So we see that you're trying, and that's the kind of people that we help out around here.
That's Colorado mentality. If you don't know how to be friendly, that's
what I'm saying. The
you'll freeze to death.
In Colorado, you don't see shit like that in Missouri.
You don't even see this kind of mentality in Denver. Denver's been smothered out with Californians. No offense, my Cali people, but they're the same kind. They're afraid.
Everything was going so good. Like, I was actually a little nervous, like working with government and state people, that I wasn't going to fit in.
Right.
Everybody, we all got along every single day. We were productive. They threw my ass on heavy equipment immediately.
Well, and you're part of the construction industry in general, any type of that kind of industry, oil, construction, cannabis, and I'd say what's another one? Food industry, agriculture. Those are like, you become a family. They'll bury people for you.
Oh yeah. And so I mean, nothing could really go better. Like,
right. You were living your best dream at that time.
Exactly. And I actually about 3 months into it, with this hovering anxiety this entire time that it could all be ripped out from under me, it kept me from actually truly fully enjoying it. Like, it's crazy because you can still have everything that you ever wanted and worked for, and it still not be enough.
So what did the foster care system do wrong? They didn't teach you accept good things. They didn't teach you how to focus and give you the mentality to not be afraid and fight or flight. That's the only thing I can say.
So, and that's where a lot of my past self-sabotage came in, is I would start getting a lot of good stuff going for me, and then I'd screw it up before it could be screwed up on its own. I wanted that control, to be able to be the one to screw it up.
But do you give up easy?
Yeah. But
you do?
I literally, well, not anymore. I used to, but with CDOT, like, I was literally, and another big thing, I was working on my GED out here too. I got a laptop and started my classes. They give you this assessment where you take these practice tests in every course, and if you pass them over this certain grade, then they go ahead and let you take the other tests without all the study material. You get it done faster. So I passed every single one of the practice tests within 4 hours, and they send me an email, congratulations, you're ready to move on to the final tests. And it was only four tests, and I was done with my high school education. So
now you see the corruption in that shit too?
Huh?
I said, do you see the corruption in that shit too? I swear.
Oh yeah.
Wasted time.
I wasn't even doing it for, I know that I'll never need it, but I was doing it to see how much more can I improve? What else can I? It was for self-gratification.
Did you actually get the actual certificate?
No, because whenever I'm getting to this, about 3 months into it, my supervisor, I'm leaving the patrol barn in Carbondale because that's where my patrol was, and they're so understaffed. It was only me and one other guy, and that one other guy for Carbondale, which is all the way, the whole stretch of highway all the way down to Paonia, damn near.
Wow.
So it was just me and my, basically my supervisor, and he was a really cool guy, kind of quiet, like didn't want you to see his full personalities, type shit.
Yep.
And so, but he was a really kind fella. And so anyway, I'm getting off track.
No, you're doing great.
But I leave the patrol barn because this guy, my supervisor, had left for his paid leave that he built up through winter. And so he was gone for like a week. And so I would have to leave. I would have to clock in and everything at my patrol in Carbondale, like leave Glenwood every morning, clock in at Carbondale, and then go over to Elgibel, like over by Aspen.
Yes.
And I would be a part of their patrol while my supervisor was gone. So I'm leaving the shop in Elgibel one morning, and my supervisor, that she gave me this, it's my supervisor's supervisor, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
She works in the office, and she's the one that did all my enrolling. She's the one that dropped off some gift cards at my apartment. She brought me some bar stools so I had a place to sit and eat.
Huge.
And she really looked out for me. And so she actually calls me one morning, not on my work phone, but on my cell phone. She's like, hey, have you left the shop yet? And I said, no. She said, you have to come to the office and turn in your badge and your keys, your binder, your hat, all of it. And I was like, what's going on? And knowing that probably my DUI shit popped back up.
Oh, God.
And so she said, you, one, have a warrant out for your arrest for failure to appear in court. And you also have a driving while under the influence and reckless mountain driving on your Colorado record. And I was like, heartbroken.
Right.
Fucking broken. And so not a lot of people, they get a DUI and they lose their license. I lost my dream job. I lost my place in Glenwood, and I lost my ability to drive all at the same time. Back to square one, back to ground zero.
A complete hard reset with one bad decision.
Big time. And I ended up going to the Eagle County office and showing them the selfie that I took on my phone of me at the courthouse.
Yes.
On the Saturday that they scheduled me for.
Right.
And showed them that I appeared, so they need to squash the warrant.
Right.
Because I was there on the scheduled court date. She's like, oh, well, it does say July 15th. And I said, and now tell me what fucking day of the week July 15th was. And she's like, it looks like it was on a Saturday. And I was like, yep. And here's the picture to show that I was at court. So
at that like, timestamp. Yep.
Yeah. And
that was
because
smart.
You can hit info on the picture and pull up the time and the date. So I showed her that, and she's like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and have the prosecutor squash the warrant, but I'm going to, we have to schedule you for probation. And I ended up going to a hearing the day that I turned myself in for the warrant to have it squashed. And the judge was like, and this is the first DUI ever. You ready?
That's insane.
24 hours of community service to get done within 6 months. What? 1 year of level 2 drug and alcohol classes. 9 months of unsupervised alcohol probation. And what else was it? Oh, I had a shit ton of fines. And I got all my fines paid off immediately with the money I had left over from CDOT.
Wow.
So it showed that I was making an effort, but now I have to go through all that shit, which I haven't started any of it because it's been so overwhelming that I just shoved it all in a corner and got drunk again.
I have to ask though, and we're not taking away from this moment, I have to ask. And your friend, and we can call him Jerry, right?
The one that's out here is Terry.
Terry, I'm sorry, I said the wrong name.
There's a Jerry and a Terry.
Okay, my bad. Well,
no, you're good.
And the Terry, excuse me. So he is the one who's like, we're going to get through this. You don't need to worry. So I'm sure he was pushing you to just spend the money, pay the shit, do what they say, right?
You know what? You saw right through all of it without me having to say anything. He really did, because he saw that I was overwhelmed with it.
Yeah.
So he just said, knock out what you can right now with the fines, and that'll be one thing off your shoulders. And I sure wasn't going to do any of it.
I welcome you to share your story along the way, and there will be no judgment here. I can tell you that. And I honestly think, we're not going to mention names, but the person who's listening, who we know, I think she should also put her 2 cents in with this whole conversation we should have along the way. If you're more than open to have a little powwow in the future, because
is she listening?
She will be.
Okay.
So anything, we can maybe work some honesty conversations about how fucking hard it really is. Because, see, I don't know if you guys understand, but I have an addictive personality too. And I have admitted on my podcast very often that part of the reason that I couldn't continue to be in the adult industry is I liked it way too much. I became like, without even being a sex addict, you can become a sex addict and all that other shit. So it got real like scary because it was like, oh, money and now sex? That's scary, Even if you're doing it, for somebody else to help them, like it's scary how easily one addiction can trade off to the other. So I would be open to sharing like shopping addictions and
that's why I have been going to the gym every single day for the past couple months.
Hey, I say make art, don't drink and live, if you know what I mean. Like some people do that, not drive, but live. Like don't be crazy on the internet drinking, So I won't submit you that way, but I'll say for real, if there was ever a come to Jesus, you wanted to have a conversation with the listeners that you're realizing, I open my platform for your voice because it's going to be very therapeutic for you to go back and recognize. Like me personally, the few times that I've ever drank and recorded myself, they've never went on the internet personally for me, but I know that alcoholism is way too easy for me. Like literally I drink a few days and I want to drink a lot. So I have to not. It's terrible. Like too much of a craving, So do you recognize it yourself like that, or is it more the circumstances just fucked you? Or is it compulsory?
It was pretty much like I'm already hitting the bottom again, so let me see how far I can actually dig this thing myself.
Right.
How much deeper can I dig? But I want to do it myself. I want the shovel in my hands because if anybody's going to destroy it, it's going to be me.
So did you drink alone?
I did.
Okay.
And we're talking after my
departure of beautiful Glenwood.
Yes. And
I understand.
So Terry, he pulled me back here, crash landed back in Parachute where I first started out here, and big old circle. And at this point, I had already gotten to see the majority of Colorado from living in my car and taking all kinds of road trips, along with a lot of Utah. So I was content with the way that the year had been. I'd been to a big old music festival, Country Jam. Everything had worked out exactly as I wanted, if not better, even though I had this shit hanging over my head.
That's right.
I was still satisfied with the year, was ready to come back here to Parachute, settle down. And then, weirdly enough, my mom that I had never met hits me up right after Thanksgiving and gives this huge descripted apology and told me, she's karma. Like, I've been seeing your posts on Facebook here this last year. She's like, it's obvious that you're out there to find peace, and holding grudges doesn't make peace or room for peace in your heart. I really hope that you reach back to me. I love you. And so ever since then, it's been a couple weeks now, and ever since then, things have been going really well. We both show our true colors. She knows that I have a fucked up sense of humor, and she rolls with it. She loves jamming out to Beastie Boys and old school fucking sick shit. So she's a really cool person, and she's got a really huge heart.
Are you guys learning to love each other on a musical level at this point? Is that what's happening, or is it from the bare essentials? Have you guys had the face-to-face conversations yet?
We have not. We've just been texting.
Oh, you have got to tell us how that goes, like on time. Like, my goodness, support. That's hardcore. One day at a time.
That's exactly it. It's not rushing into anything.
Yep.
You have to know your own boundaries. You don't want to get hurt jumping into something like this, especially with everything else that's happened in your life.
Yep.
So you are trying, whenever you have, like I am having a lot of shit to deal with still, a lot to focus on to get myself out of this hole that I dug and get back on track. I was skeptical about reaching back out to her because I didn't want to add any more potential bullshit to my plate. And
it's smart.
It really surprised me, though, whenever I finally broke down and I texted her and she kept, we just hit it off immediately. We send each other music so we can get to learn each other's the way that we are through music.
Yep.
She's really happy. She has a man that she's about to get married to next year. And I asked her, "Are you truly happy? Is he good for you? Do you have fear of abandonment? Anything like that?" Like, probably asking too many deep questions.
You probably are trying to figure yourself out through that. So I respect that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, kind of being
like, why love for you? That's what you're asking her.
Why am I the way that I am?
Yep.
And I'm gonna ask these questions vicariously through you.
I get that.
I like to dig.
You should
like to tickle people's brains.
That's good.
And
you can learn a lot from others' views.
Yes, and they a lot of times, like, it builds an even stronger bond because you're showing that you're brutally, like, you're blunt, like you're not sugarcoating anything. So she's very open. Like, she kind of had her walls up too at first, but now we're both very open, and I'm learning a lot on her side of things. She was also a black sheep growing up, and we do have a lot in common. It's crazy. She wants me to fly out there next year to come meet her and have a dinner with her.
Is she still in Missouri as well?
Yes, she is.
That's great. And the relationship just got cut off very early in your life?
She gave me to her sister whenever I was 3 months old.
Gotcha.
And I never met her. My aunt, who I was living with at that time, had me under the impression the whole time that I lived with her that she was my mom. And never let me meet any other family members, kind of sugar-coated, helicoptered the shit out of me. And I just one day, and we moved around all over the state. No stability, didn't stay in a school for any more than 3 years. And I never saw stability. So she, one day, she told me, right before New Year's, right before I turned 10 years old, she said, "I'm going to drive you down to meet some family members." And I was like, okay, like, kind of, it was odd. Like, even my child sense was feeling off about it. Like, immediately sweating type shit.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really ask any more questions, but the next morning, like, she had all of my toys, everything was packed in totes, all my clothes into her little Honda, and drove me all the way from Kansas City, which is the top. Well, I wouldn't say it's the top. It's more like the middle, but North Missouri.
Yes.
On the Kansas side, and drove me all the way from there to the other side of the state, down in the boot heel, they call it. Missouri's got that little hook down into Arkansas. They call it the boot heel.
Right.
And she just dropped me off at my dad's and left, and I never heard from her.
Oh my God. I gotta say, and I might be like gauging way too far. You just correct me if I'm wrong, but that had to be part of your internal struggle with your ex-wife because of her fucking yo-yo games. Like being told to leave your home. That's fucking traumatizing. Same shit you were dealing as a child.
It did kind of make a circle back, yeah, but it was a different kind of feeling, but it also brought, like, the whole time that I was at Jerry's, every time I got kicked out, we were having fun and everything, but I still had this, like, physical pain in my chest, the same one that I carried from whenever I got dropped off at my dad's.
Or even to invoke the whole, because the boys' homes, at least what I know, is that they usually will just be like, "You're moving tomorrow," and you're like, "What?" And
you go to another spot, and that's the same pain in your chest. It's every time that you move. It's every time
And you got to say goodbye to people, and you really don't know if you'll ever fucking hear from them again, or are they okay?
Exactly. Oh, yeah. You know what's really crazy? So I never heard from my aunt since then. This is going to blow your mind. So she had some friends from back whenever I lived in the Springfield, Ozark area that she used to drop me off at their house, and they would babysit me. I was like 7 or 8 years old at this time. These people were so kind and amazing that whenever I left, I missed the shit out of them. But check it out. After I got out of jail and everything, created a Facebook account. This is years and years and years later. Right. I searched their names and hit them up, and they add me back. And they're like, holy shit. We didn't know what happened to you. You know, your aunt, what's happened? Like, what did you find everything out? Your aunt told us that she wasn't your real mom. And like, we wondered whatever happened to you. If you, like, your story's fucking nuts. Right. Like, what happened? And I kind of went into a little bit with them, and then I saw later this summer that they were, or early this summer actually, I was still working at the golf club. They were in this trip in Colorado, and I was like, hey, I'm literally only about an hour from you guys. What if on your way back home you swung by here and visited? And she's like, oh my God, yes. So I ran into these people again, or they ran into me. What was it? Fucking 15 years later.
That's huge. Absolutely huge. See, and that's how I ended up back in this town. Is I 17 years later, after Katrina, had been living in California, and
just then circled all the way back.
I actually, okay, so I used to do skip tracing. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's where you'll work for a company who has a legal team that allows your employees to do background searches. So I had access to MSI and all these other freaking background skip tracing legal. I shouldn't have used it, like it's bad, you know, but I did. I still had a password. It was during Katrina time. So I recontacted one of the family members I had found through their sister, like, you know what I mean? Like through a friend. I was like, this is such and such. And it had been 17 years. And we got back in touch, and my friend was going through a divorce, and I was witnessing her cheat on her husband. So I was like, you should just move in with me, because I ended up getting pregnant, and I wanted to move back to this area where I had grown up. So I found myself back here, and our mutual friend, similar story. I don't know if she's told you the circle, how she came back, but it's some weird stuff. So you finding yourself, even in the short period of time, in parachuting back, you are probably been chosen by this town. I'll just say, we won't let you go.
Like, it's crazy how open arms this place has welcomed me, with being such a like quiet, keep to yourself kind of town.
Oh, it very much is.
But it's like, it's crazy how I did just circle back. Like, I got to get out, see Colorado, experience it for what it really is, adventure camp, work at these incredible places. I worked for a temp service too while I was working at the golf course on my days off.
Right.
That they said that I was the perfect, for those of you that don't know what a temp service is, they pretty much, you call in, you need work, and they send you out to maybe go help out a rancher on his property, or unload cabinets and boxes into a person's home that they're moving into, yada, yada, yada. Right. Just odd jobs. And they told me that I was the perfect age to, I qualified to be in this BARS program. And it's basically, it's not a sting operation.
Interesting.
But they give me these cards. It's a green and a red card, and you go around the entire state. They literally give you a route, and it's not all in one trip. Like, they'll send you from Vail to Steamboat and back, or Vail to Aspen and back, or whatever. And I went on these routes that would go from town to town. That would take me about 9 to 10 hours to complete, and they pay you gas up front by the calculating of the trip. And so I was literally in it to just venture out and see as much Colorado as I can in
That's
my very
huge.
first year. And so I was in it for the adventure. I didn't want anybody like get in any trouble and shit. So I literally go, they give you this checklist, like what was the clerk's name. You have to go in there and they give you a task per store.
It's a mystery shopper, kind of.
Yeah, walk into come and go such and such town on such and such address and shop for this specific alcohol or shop for this specific smoke.
I did that in Cali. I got a lot of free dinners there.
Yeah, and it's like
yep.
They thought that I had a gas guzzling car because it's 4-wheel drive, yada yada yada. So
right.
They would over calculate the amount of money to give me for the trip.
Oh,
because they thought that I was getting a higher mileage per gallon or a lower mile per gallon than what I was really getting. So I would get to keep every time like $80 throughout the day to like eat on, stop at a restaurant, whatever.
Right.
And it was so
perfect
fun.
Perfect job.
It was so much fun. So I am pretty satisfied with the year being able to go out and do shit like that.
There's just some reason that the reflection of, and actually, I mean, as funny as it is, we have to let the listeners know that I don't think they quite got it. So I'm going to repeat it. You spoke to your mother after we had already scheduled this podcast. So we had my child get sick and had to reschedule. And now, so in this time period, you even have a different reflection of your life, I'm sure. So like, this podcast is pretty important just to document where you are right now, but
it's like a vocal journal.
It really is. And honestly, like if you do travels, I encourage you to like keep some kind of an audio of your travels. Like I'll set you up with your own little podcast. You got to do it. Or come on as a guest anytime you want. But for real, like
do you think that parachute was really meant for me as far as this being the first
I'll tell you this. You want my honest opinion?
Yeah. Like, how did I circle back here after all?
Well, first off, you didn't take dirt because it's like that here. Anywhere in Garfield, you're part of the, I'm going to sound a little loony, guys, but here it comes. You're part of communities, caretakers that the natives have chosen you. They think you're okay. You came back. You had a reason. They let you. Your situation.
It's crazy because, like,
it's
how
real.
come my entire life, every time that it's literally like the Zeppelin song. It is literally it. There's a feeling I get when I look to the west.
Oh, I know that.
And I literally, that was me in Missouri my whole life. And I had actually had plans on like packing up a wagon full of clothes and shit and hopping a train out west to hopefully Colorado. Like Colorado was on my mind, and I just so happened to actually make it.
See, you know, I think you would understand this point. The thing that always makes me happy about traveling is you can see a picture of a place, someone can describe it, but until you have seen and smelt and experienced the ugliest days and the prettiest days of a place, you can't really understand it. And like I'm personally right now looking for property all over the country on Zillow and stuff, and I can look at ponds from a drone aspect all damn day, but until I smell it and I'm like, this is it, I know that there's somewhere right now that bugs are crawling on. There's crickets. The moon goes up and down every fucking day, and it's my property in the future. I know it. And it's a weird thing to know that when you've never smelt it, but you know it because travelers see it in your mind, your heart. You are pulled there like a magnet. Because I was 12 when I knew I was going to live in California.
You know, you say pulled there like a magnet. I was the other magnet to Colorado, and then it just so happened like after I lost everything and had to face reality on that ground zero start from scratch again level. I was like, you know what? Maybe Colorado's not for me at first. I kept thinking, like, making plans, like, you know what if I just go back to Missouri and take another stab at it another year type shit. And, or maybe even Arizona where it's warmer and try start over out there or something. But then I was like, you know what? All you have ever done is just run from your problems, and that's it. Like, you've just ran and ran, and you don't actually sit long enough to plant roots somewhere.
I was going to say, plant the seeds and leave your harvest. Like, don't take it, leave it.
It's like, I came all the way out here, and I didn't come this far to just break down.
I think Colorado is making you focus. I think it's literally taking away the ability for you to leave. Like, I have a broken down car, and I have learned so much since May about myself, and I've worked on my credit. I'm getting, like, it's incredible. Actually, let me just say this.
And I think I've had some time to reevaluate, and it's like, you do get that time to, like, reflect back. And I've kind of thought over the last couple of weeks that, you know what, take this as a blessing. You're being able to have enough time to go to the gym every single day, work on your self-confidence, work on your mental health. You have time.
You should get in the cannabis industry. I'm just saying it.
Winter out here is your dark room. This is your time.
That's right.
To progress before you can move forward. And if you're going to be out here in Colorado, I think Colorado is showing me, or my spirit guides are showing me, that they let me have a taste of the good life of Colorado, just to bring me back down, to humble me and be like, all right, now you're still here, so work on getting back there.
But I'll say this.
You're going to experience the full, true part of Colorado, all the way from the ground up.
You need to think higher than what you're thinking. And I'll say that on every level of, even like, somebody told me that advice a long time ago, where they were like, and this is a weird way to put it, but just try to understand what I'm saying, that in a relationship wise, you should look for something even better than that. Do you understand? You should look for a job even better than that. You should look for a house even better than that. Think beyond what you thought you fucking deserved. Think beyond that. Not I want, no, I deserve.
Right.
And let it be.
That was my entire mindset to get to CDOT, get my place and everything. Like, it's that I deserve. It's my time.
Not I want, not I can. This is mine. That's what I used to do. Every job interview in California, I'd put my hand on the wall of the building that I knew I wanted. Like, I don't know how else to explain that to you. Before I'd even walk in the building, I'd put it on the wall, because I was like, this is mine. I want this job. Like, if it was the highest paying one, you know, I ended up getting, my last major job was a government contract, very similar to yours. And I had an apartment that was $1,500 a month, all utilities included. I was allowed to literally write down on a piece of paper and say how much money I needed for medicine, because they knew I was a smoker. So they were like, I'm serious, I had a $400 a month in California budget for medicine, along with $350 of mad money that I used to spend on plants at Home Depot, like living the life, you know, just random shit spending. You're exactly where you need it to be. You need to go through and see that you're already had those jobs, even though they did let you go. I've had similar things in California that were construction based, but because I had cannabis, they wouldn't hire me because they were, what do you call it, school projects, and they don't want cannabis relations in LA. USD, whatever the fucking school district. That was way back when. But the same thing went by. You still have experience in those businesses. Once you do get yourself back on track, honestly, I think you should still apply for the cannabis industry, because they aren't as fucking evil.
Check this out. So CDOT told me that they would hire me back once I got, like, they didn't fire me. They didn't put that I quit. They told HR that I needed a resignation with hopes to return. Yeah, and so
that's beautiful.
They literally told me, like, we want you back on our team. Like, we see
You're not the first person to go through this, especially in Colorado.
Yeah. Well, and my supervisor, the one that I told you about, he actually had 2 DUIs in 1 week at one time, and he's now a supervisor of a whole patrol in a Colorado town. And so it rings in my head that I can still get back in with them and be right back to where I was. But now that I'm spending time away from it, it's like, do I really want that, or what else is there out there for me? Like, I could get right back to my place, in my town, like the way that Joe Dirt talks about Sober Town in Idaho is my Glenwood, straight the fuck up. And so, like, I don't know, it's Glenwood something to work towards, but it's that fake personality thing again that you were talking about, like that mask. Like, I couldn't smoke weed, I couldn't, you know what I mean? And it wasn't who I am. Like,
you can do that so long. I was working 16-hour days with the job I was telling you about. I wasn't sleeping, and if my boss lived next door, okay, I was growing plants in my fucking my government paid. It was a government job. My government paid. I mean, it was completely legal what I was doing. I had a medical card. I was doing everything right, but it was weird. Like, I was working for the military, okay? I was an interior designer.
And that's exactly it. Like, you have to be all professional whenever you're on the walkies. You have to be all...
Do you know General McChrystal?
One time I was getting off of work off this paving project.
Right.
And I was getting ready to load up, and I was going to be one of the last ones to clock out, because you still got paid all the way up until you clock out from your patrol. So if you finish a project at the end of the day, fucking 5 towns away, you don't, your day doesn't just, your paid day doesn't just end whenever that job ends. It ends whenever you get back to your patrol. So, because they don't pay you hourly, they pay you by exactly how many tons of asphalt you rolled that day, what equipment you used, how much gas, everything. And so, and that made timesheets. You had to fill out your clock out sheet. Basically, it took like 20 to 30 minutes out of every single day before you could leave.
It's heavy billing. That's how they get all the extra perks.
Exactly. And so I literally, I was going all the way from Gypsum to Carbondale, and everybody was on the walkies. Like, you know, I'm driving this big ass Dodge 3500, like feeling like a fucking boss.
Company car, I'm sure, right?
Huh?
Was it a company car? Yes.
Oh yeah. And so I was like feeling on top of the world. Sun was going down. Just finished another good day project, and people were talking over the radio, and I heard my call sign, and so I go to answer it, and my buddy Jerry, he's on the phone with me as I'm going through the canyon. So I'm trying to listen to him and listen to what they're saying at the same time. And Jerry kept mocking them because he could hear him in the background on the radio. And he's going, rubber ducky, you know me, I'm down with OPP, over. And I was like dying laughing. I wasn't able to, he showed me the comedy in my life again. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was so stuck up in my ways of CDOT, get shit done, fucking worrying about this, trying to take care of this, and I lost my sense of humor again. Like, I lost my comedy.
All work, no play.
He brought it, exactly. And even though I was like going out, trying new restaurants, having a fucking time of my life, I was still like not me, not genuinely me. And Jerry, just after living with him for years ago and then going over to his house through some of the darkest times of my life, and then him bringing that part of me back out that night, it also kind of made me realize, like, I can do anything else. Like, bigger things can come my way where I can actually still be me.
That's true. The passions are waiting to be discovered at this point.
Exactly. Life's a garden, dig it.
Yep.
I feel like this story's kind of like a parallel to Joe Dirt type shit.
Well, I always say fear is just a moment in life left unlived.
Yes.
And reality is true complexity, because reality is really more complex than,
and we can really only control what we can control.
That's
we can only that one day at a time that they tell you in AA shit is overrated in my opinion, because one day at a time is too much.
That's a good point. One moment at a moment.
What's going on right fucking now, right here, right now? Don't even worry about what's going to happen 5 minutes from now, because you don't know. You can only control what's going on right here, right now.
What do you feel about the addiction side of admitting to go forward? Like, do you think the fear of fire, like that theory of walking through the flames, do you think it's necessary, or do you think it is a pace-based situation?
No, you have to jump in ass, head, and elbows first.
Like, decide you're done, and then...
Yes, you have to. That's whenever I was done with the amphetamines, I literally said goodbye, Dad, and cut out everybody that I ever did it with.
Did he try to bring you back in?
No, he was pissed, and he threatened Jerry because they were best friends growing up, and then he felt like he stole me away from him. And
he saved you. There's a big difference.
But that's not his mindset. That's not my dad's mindset. He feels like he was robbed of a relationship with his son.
He only knows you as the co-party friend.
Yeah, he doesn't, and he's even since I've been in Colorado. Okay, I called him one time.
Yeah.
After not talking to him for a while, and I said, "Hey, I'm working with the Department of Transportation. Got my own place in my favorite little postcard town.
Yep.
Everything's going good." And he was like, "All right, son. Well, I gotta go. I got company over." And hung up.
Oh my God.
So
you're beyond strong. I'm just saying that. That's like hard because you know what time is, and he's wasting it. You're trying. You're reaching it. Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry.
But he wants me to go back over there, especially
you could never fall back into that.
He was like, "Just come back to Missouri. Come back home. You have a place here. We can put you to work. Don't even worry about that. Like, just maybe take another stab at it another year." And it's been tempting.
Let me tell you something. I don't know if it's a Missouri thing, and I'm going to have to really present our little conversation of sorts with my you-know-who friend, because I'm telling you, Missouri seems to be that place. If you had an old behavior and you go back, you'll never get out. You'll be crawling and scratching and asking them to let go by the time you are. It's a cycle.
Black hole, and my dad doesn't understand that. I straight up texted him back, and I said, "Look, no matter what kind of shit I got myself into out here, I've been in worse, and I can get myself out of it. I'm not just." I told him, "I'm not out here to move backwards in life. I'm here to move forward." And he got upset with me. "So you're not going to be coming back here?" And this, no, I'm not. I love him, but from a distance. And my mom's really respected that too. Like, she said, not a lot, and even Terry, even Jerry, a lot of people that have been spirit guides in my life, people from CDOT, I've heard the same thing out here. Not a lot of people have the balls to just get up and leave their hometown. They stay stuck. They become hometown heroes and never get to experience life for what it really is outside of your own culture. And this isn't trashing anybody.
No.
This is supposed to be inspirational. This is, hopefully,
it's lessons learned and then experiences shared. And this is only part one. We're well aware that you're probably going to have some more reflections too. And I mean, honestly, I had seen, I hate to give it away, but when you did that video where you're like, "I'm not sure about this cold," I was like, oh shit. He realized it actually does get snowy like Missouri too. Like, I'm really impressed though that you don't complain. You may observe, but you don't complain. That's because of the strength you've been through. I believe it.
It is. And it's a lot of, whenever you've been in points in your life where you have nothing but gratitude to keep your spirits up, because a lot of people that could have gone down my path and walked my shoes, there could have been a lot of different turns to take. They could have became bitter and hateful people. They could have, and me, I decided not to let any of that happen to me. I still had, and I think that's what living with Jerry showed me. Yep. That's what my buddy out here has showed me, that there's still a light, that you don't have to let what happens in your life make you bitter and cold. Everybody still has a light within them that they literally just need to let shine.
That's right. Pull back the pedals and look in the middle. It's not the outer level.
It doesn't matter what happens to you. Yep. So, like, whenever you're limited to absolutely nothing but your friends, and they're letting you, like, you don't have anything of yourself, of your own anymore, but you're getting by with a little help from some friends, or, you know, you have small blessings come your way. That's the things that keep my peace, my spiritual peace, is you literally just have to ground yourself, and so it's easy to go off and why don't I have this, and think about what you don't have, instead of really ground yourself and take a look around and be like, wow, I have this, you know?
You've spent a couple of months now, I would say, and obviously weeks and, you know, days contemplating what you could have probably done different. And as a Capricorn, I'm sure you definitely have done that. But also
Absolutely.
the screaming out loud, the fuck, God damn it, all that mad at yourself. Really, obviously, you're very self-aware that, like, those moments pass, and then you pick up and you move forward. So
whenever I left, that's actually a really good point to bring up. Whenever I left CDOT and left Glenwood and was back down to square one, I wanted nothing more than to just sit outside drunk, listening to sad ass shit and beat my fist into the earth, screaming "fuck you." And I actually went off on a bender again. I let it take control. I sat and they let me have until the end of the month to move out of my apartment. So I literally just spent the rest of my money on taking care of my court shit. And then the rest went towards getting drunk, going bar hopping, fucking sitting at the house, drinking alone, going back out, going bar hopping, and just staying drunk.
I wasn't staring at your beautiful walls. You know you were.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was. And I
know that feeling.
Like, there was literally this view that I had of Glenwood, downtown Glenwood, that I would pull back the curtains, and it was a sliding glass door, and I literally just pulled my camping chair up to it and stared out there many times, drunk as fuck before.
And you were seeing this in what months of the year?
August.
Oh my God, what a beautiful time.
Yeah, and so
Glenwood's gorgeous. You were saying the bathroom was sexy
going to
too.
Watch live music in the park, taking strolls down by the river, going up the gondola to the top of the adventure park, all of it. The little music jam bands and shit.
You have to describe the bathroom. I'm not going to let you get out of this interview without that bathroom conversation. Remember?
Describe what?
Your bathroom at your apartment. When I first met you, were like, you don't understand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So that bathroom was bougie as hell. Like, it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. And they said that in my contract that I was the only resident to be living there because it was a state unit.
Right.
So I went into the
extra
bathroom
room.
And to mine, like, I completely closed the doors on the other side of my bed because I wasn't going to use it. And so I kept the master bedroom and the master bath.
That's lovely.
And I went over to the master bath. First time I turned on the sink, there was like this the shower was a stand-up, had sliding glass doors all tiled out. It was more than anything I'd ever thought I'd have.
Right.
And I go over to the kitchen, actually, in the sink, like fucking pull the head of it, and it becomes like a hose. And there's a button on it. It was like...
You're like, this is insane!
Yeah, it was fancy as shit. I was like, what? Like, taking it all in, you know?
I'd be spraying that up in the air just for excitement.
Back the curtains in the living room, the blinds, and just staring out there, watching the sun go down.
The stars.
And once I realized that I had like 2 weeks to move, there were many times where I would just sit in there and, you're right, just stare at the beautiful walls.
Yep.
And
did you talk to your apartment? Because I did at my old one. I was like, I will never forget you. And I love you, and I would buy you if I could.
I remember being like, well, it was fun while it lasted, and like talking out loud, but like in general to my apartment.
Yeah, no, because it is an entity. I'm sorry. You gonna say it isn't? I'm sorry, it is. You gave it life.
No,
you took care of it. Like, it's the same thing.
It's like I call my car a she. She fucking got me through. She got me out of Missouri. Fucking, she showed me the majority of the state, put up with a bunch of my bullshit. Like,
that's my Corolla, the Sandra. She's got 2 humps, one bad one. Somebody hit it. It wasn't my fault.
Yeah, my entire passenger side's fucked.
Well, and this is the thing, Colorado, and especially where we live, when I first met you, you just said it without realizing it, but it's true. People who come through that pass don't ever leave. You're stuck here. That's how it happened in the wagon days, and it still happens here. Every time I go visit Denver or anything, I would knock out my bearings on my Corolla. But I have racing
I know that
wheels.
if I end up, that's the thing, is whenever I would fantasize about going back to Missouri and taking another step another time, thoughts would run through my head like, dude, I would talk to myself like, dude, you know yourself enough to know that you're just gonna miss it the entire time. You're gonna miss Colorado. Yep. What could I have done differently? Why didn't I stay? Why am I circling all the way back here to where it took me so much to get out of? And you know, you're just gonna miss it. You're gonna miss the mountains. They stole your heart. Get over it. You know, like.
Hey, you're not the only one. This is the 3rd time living here in Colorado in this particular area, going on 8 years now. Well, it is about 8 years. I usually leave places after 9 and don't return. So I'm almost fucking done. Because every place I've ever lived, Colorado, California, and Louisiana, it's 9 years each time. So that's why I'm positive. I'm done soon. I love Colorado, but the hold on preventing me to travel can happen here. It definitely can happen. You got to have some kind of like plan. And take dirt.
Here's
you
my
take
next
it in a vial.
Game plan. Is as much as this time, I told you whenever I first landed out here that this wasn't really it wasn't my town. I could do it, and then over time, it's just grown on me. It has everything you need. People are amazing. The gym is awesome. And
cheap in some
literally
ways.
Like it's so quiet, peaceful, and the mountains are actually kind of gorgeous for the high desert.
Yep.
And so, it's crazy because I'm thinking about getting a place, like either trying to find a roommate here, or an apartment, and just staying put here. But whenever I get my DUI shit handled, however, I'm getting a van, and I'm only going to live in my place here in town for about the winter season. And then any other time of the year, I'm going to live in my van, go out, travel more of the West. But where I'm going to circle back to is here. Every year.
You definitely should. And honestly, this is a town that always offers the RV connections. It's very interesting. I think this town eventually will put lots in for tiny houses, like traveling tiny houses. They don't really allow it right now, currently where you're at, right?
No, they don't. They're putting in, they have empty lots. That's just dirt and a little electrical box hookup. But
it would make
it's a
so
whole
much
entire
money.
Other side of the RV park that doesn't, you know what I mean?
Right.
They don't have anything, but they're dragging in small homes, like small trailer homes, you know.
Yep. Well, and see, I was in this town when they didn't have anything except the houses where I live, not to give out my location, but literally there were nothing in the backside where you're at. Where I used to smoke was in the fields kind of where you're at. Like they were all overgrown. So we would just sneak down.
Whenever I started this morning, telling myself that I was going to fast and started running out at the gym, I actually took off down the side of the mountain, down towards the river.
Right.
From across the RV park, there's a trail that cuts down the mountain and leads to the water, and there's a bench. And I sat there trying to meditate.
Yeah.
It was too cold. It's not meditational time of year.
Oh, it's blowing wind cold. We're on a mesa.
It was distracting.
It's very cold.
It was distracting.
Hey, I'm going to say this. You and me and all of our little people we know that are fun, you know what I'm talking about, the people in town, we all can gather together, have got to plan a camping trip. I mean, the whole fucking dirty in the woods for 3 days, 4 days. I mean it. We have to.
Absolutely, and I know the spots.
I need it.
Sure. Yes.
I don't know what else to
Springtime
say.
cannot get here fast enough.
No, and last May 3rd is when my car broke down. I've been trapped in this home since then. Literally. It's not normally me.
Telling me about that.
Oh God. Like, I'm accepting it, universe. Whatever. You know what happened? I noticed the birds outside. I listened to the weather more often. I fucking have turned the TV off and turned the music on. You know?
Hey, you stopped and smelled the fucking
That's right.
roses.
That's what this is. It's good when our power goes out here. We remember that the settlers knew what we're feeling.
This conversation just opened something up.
Good.
This whole time that I've been kind of feeling guilty and talking down to myself about my DUI shit and being stuck, this is good. Like,
you're going to be a much stronger person.
Time to open our minds, get away from the media for a little bit.
That's right.
Be able to stop and smell the fucking roses for what they are.
Well, and for that being, we just made 3 hours and 10 minutes. Do you want to say we're going to tell them more on next episode, and I'll call you right back in a second?
Yes.
Okay. So everybody, thank you for listening. And we did disclose some names, but you know what? There's so many of those motherfuckers in the world. You're never going to find him. I'm just going to tell you right now. You don't know what he looks like. He could be Jamaican for all you know. So.
I am.
Or Nigerian. Are you Nigerian? You might be. Russian? Who are you?
Jamaican.
Jamaican Nokin. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you all for being here. And until next time, till part 2, where you learn more juicy things about this awesome person. I will hit you back up in a second, so you just hang tight. And I'm going to end this live right now, and we will have it up soon.
So much, guys.
Just hang tight. Let's see.